Hundreds and thousands have been abducted, raped, tortured. The dictator has blood on his hands, but they still continue to do business with him. Very soon we will have comrades who are right in the protests, and we would love to get some of those streams, and we will be sharing them with you so that you can see the kind of activity that's going on right here at the center of where the world's focus and attention is. Nico, how are we doing with that video?
I'm pushing the share screen button now, and
if you go to advanced, you will find video as one of your options, and it would be good to see what
does it show at this moment?
Once you click start share at the bottom.
So
those of you who are joining us on Facebook, you can join the Zoom chat, and you can come in and have your word. You can have your 5 minutes to speak to the world about what is on your mind. Just use the link that is on the video that has been shared on all our channels and come in and speak your mind out. Use your 5 minutes however you want. This is about us raising our voices, because we always say, if we do not take the opportunity in the democracies we live in to tell the world about what's happening in Uganda, how can we expect the people back home to speak up and raise their voices? Nico, how are you getting on with that video?
Yeah, so I shared from Dropbox, but that integration.
Oh, I see. So best thing to do is is the video on Dropbox?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I see. You might want to download it onto your computer and just use the advanced
as well.
I see. Fantastic. So if you click on share and then click advanced, you will find the video option, and you can just pick up a video file from the Do you see that option?
Yeah, I did.
A minute ago. Okay, whilst Nico is trying to get his video, I just want to, I can see so many people on, I can see placards. I love to see what's happening right now. Essie Mwanga, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to ask you to unmute yourself and tell us what is on your mind. Okay, we can see the banner, we can see the placard. Please talk to us. Tell us why you're here, where you're joining in from. Tell us why you're here today and what's on your mind. Over to you, SC Mwanga.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm here in UK that week. I'm here to show my solidarity with Ugandans, with the country where I was born. And I'm here to show everybody who is watching the world that Museveni wasn't elected by the Ugandan people. Museveni is murdering the people. Museveni is killing Ugandans. Museveni is not a fair man. He's only robbing the country. So the people of Ugandans are not happy. And we are here to protect and to refuse, to deny his dictatorship. Because he reached the elections, people have voted Robert Sentamu Kyagulanyi. Nobody ever voted him. So he's kidnapping Ugandans, he's killing Ugandans, he's torturing Ugandans, he's doing everything evil to Uganda. He's having so many chambers where they put Ugandans and all Ugandans are being killed. This is not fair. Myself, I live here in UK, but it's not enough. My people are there in Uganda, my friends I used to go to school with, people are being killed, people are being tortured. You see young people. There's no democracy in Uganda. There's no life in Uganda. So I'm here to show that solidarity, and it really is Ugandans, and Museveni wasn't elected by Ugandans.
Thank you so much, Essie. Thank you so much for sharing your words, and thank you. It's good to see you joining us. This is the beauty of this protest. You can join us wherever you are. We always say this is the only protest that you can carry in your pocket. So if you're in the park, if you're on the streets, if you're on the beach, the seafront like we are now, you can join us and have your say. You're absolutely right. Museveni is not the legitimate president of Uganda. He has used all the power, might and force to entrench himself in that position, but we have said we will not keep quiet. Thank you so much, Essie. I think Professor Nico has managed to get the video sharing sorted out. Over to you,
Yes.
Professor.
Yes, so it indicates that I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, we can see you. Yeah.
Let me hit the play button. Yes, so that was Susan on behalf of the Dutch chapter. And what was very nice is that the gentleman next to Susan is actually Brazilian. He walked by the demonstration and he offered his help, which was great. He is originally from Brazil. So we say thank you, Rick from Brazil, for joining our demonstration. And as you see, we had our huge banner where we call for the release of all political prisoners. Over 1,000 is estimated. And I actually got another request by Dr. Lina, especially reminding me, let's ask for the unconditional release of all our political prisoners. They have to be released as soon as possible. Back to you, David.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you. Please, if you end that screen share, we'll be able to head over to the people who are participating in the protest. Thank you so much. That is good to see the protest that you carried out earlier today. What we're trying to tell all Ugandans, wherever you are, you can stage a one-man protest. You do not need to have a crowd. You do not need to have many people. If you believe what you're fighting for is the right thing, in which case you're fighting for free Uganda, a new Uganda, a Uganda that's fair, just, and follows and observes democracy, you can stand wherever you want and raise your voice. So thank you, Nico, for taking the team to Total. It's one big thing that we're fighting against, the money that they're planning to inject in this fossil fuel pipeline, which will further entrench the dictator. I can see we have a few more hands up. I think Tusibira Fred and Navy Nelly have their hands up. So I'm going to invite them to say their 5 minutes and then hand over to you, Nico.
Yes, sure. So let's start. Did you already mention who to start with?
Navy Nelly, I have just asked him to unmute.
Thank you very much, comrades. I greet you in the name of the struggle. I'm here in German, and we are protesting, as you know, we are protesting against the dictator. One of my points is, I think the diaspora is the right time now. The Ugandans who send money to Uganda to care for their projects or to cater for their people, they should minimize they tax you. So as ourselves to minimize, because by sending money you are empowering the dictator. So it is very right for us to minimize and find a way to make sure that we don't spend too much, such that the dictator can gain from us. As you know, there is a certain amount of money that we give the government. So it is very good that this is the right time that we have to minimize the movement of money to Uganda. As an artist, I just want to give a small song that coordinates with the struggle. It goes like this. I'm sorry, you will hear it slowly. Unomulanga gwenkubye gwe matumba amatugo gukubidde gwe naawe gwekyali ayagala ensi yo eno Uganda yaffe mwana akulawo obwongo sentama kugamba zukuka time for struggle bannayuganda bangi balaba nnyo nga bakaaba olw'omusolo omungi gwe tubawa ne mugula emmamba embeera gye tuli mu Sseruganda yonga enyiiza and fight the impunity to regain our power. People power, our power. Join the struggle, yeah. Tuli mulutalo. To regain our power. People power, our power. Join the struggle, yeah.
Nelly, do you mind winding up? You've got 30 seconds left.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nelly. It's always good to have you sharing. We always say your 5 minutes, you can use it to express yourself in whatever way. We just want to make sure everyone gets the opportunity to speak, and good to hear your thoughts and good to hear your struggle song. Can I please ask you to email that song to ugandaisbleeding@gmail.com? We would like to use all content from artists focused on the struggle.
Okay, I'll send it. So thank you
so
very
much,
comrade, and let's keep the fire burning and the spirit high, because anytime this dictator has to go.
Thank you so much, Nelly. Nico, I think we have another person who's got their hand up. We actually have quite a few. Can you hear me, Nico?
Yes, so let's ask Wilbur Casale if he is available to ask to make his contribution. Hi, Wilbur, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you, Professor?
I'm very good, and the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you. I'm Wilbur Casale from Uganda. I want to encourage you guys. Thank you so much for this. I know in time from now it might seem very far, but all dictators they have to fall. They have no issues. They have no. At one point they have to fall. I just have to put across. One, in Ugandans, I want to encourage you. Most of us are giving up because we can't protest on the street because we expect to die. The dictator will finish us, will kill us. But I want to encourage that you can protest in any way that you can. I want to say thank you to our members of parliament who went to the last time before the dictator. That's communication. You got the message. You don't need to always be on the street. If you hear the street, use it whichever way that you can. If you're an artist, sing. If you are an architect, draw. Do whatever that you can. Daily, step by step, we will win this war. At one point, I also got discouraged, but when I see the fruit of the simple steps that I take every day, I see we are progressing. So thank you so much. I like what we're doing right now, that where the focus of the world is, we've also been noticed. People, the message is going worldwide. Never know. So that's one message of encouragement. The other is I want to thank you, people who are not Ugandans, but friends of Uganda. Thank you for standing with Uganda in a very tough season, in a very moment. Many people are distancing themselves from us, many actually funding the dictator, influencing stuff on us. But the few of you who are standing with us, I want to applaud you. I want to say thank you. So two messages across. One, encouragement. Let's do whatever we can, however little it might sound, but each contribution matters. So, for standing with Uganda. Ugandans, it's our duty. When we see those around us encouraging us, and helping us move forward, let's also do as much as we can. Just as our Uganda saying goes, "Anani mkuu aliakonta awaonya." Since they're helping us, let's work harder and harder. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Wilbur. Before we go to the next one, I just wanted to touch base with Milton Alamadi, because he will be the interviewer of our next guests. Probably we need to unmute you, Milton. In the meanwhile, Milton, while you get ready, I will also ask Okenya Jackson if he wants to give a 5-minute contribution. Okonya, how are you doing? Hello?
Hi, Nico. I think Okonya's audio is not connected because it doesn't have the microphone. So we can move on to a quick word from Milton.
Yes, I haven't unmuted Milton yet.
I just did it at your service, sir.
Great.
Okay, greetings, comrades. I'm here. I'm ready. I want to thank everybody who's participating on this very important online protest. I think it's very critical to challenge the G7 countries on their hypocrisy, to challenge the United States administration on its hypocrisy. President Biden has said that the linchpin of his foreign policy is going to be human rights and democracy. So he has to deliver on that commitment, not selectively, but to all regions and all countries in the world. So for example, you cannot have one approach toward Myanmar, where the military seized power early this year and has been committing brutal atrocities. And the United States has made it quite clear that it will not tolerate that regime and that democracy has to be restored. The signals to Uganda have been rather mixed. Yes, indeed, there was a statement by the State Department, which I think was important, to say that the elections were not free, not fair, which in essence means General Museveni's regime is not a legitimate regime. But on the other hand, there's still a lot of business as usual. As we speak today, the International Monetary Fund is considering a $900 million loan request to the Ugandan regime. This would not be entertained if the request was coming from Myanmar. It would be denounced, it would be laughed out. So the fact that the board is even considering that loan request, given the rampant nature of corruption in Uganda, shows that this standard of democracy is not being applied equally and equitably. And I think this is a good opportunity for everybody involved in this protest to make that demand. Are there two types of human beings with two standards of human rights? And if the answer is yes, then say so. But if the answer is no, then you have to deliver on those commitments equally and equitably. And that should be the demand of all Ugandans and friends of Ugandans.
And Milton, I would like to add to that. You're asking, are there two types of people? But could it even be so that we could say there are two colors of people, white people and non-white people?
Absolutely. We can be that explicit. In fact, that is indeed historically the case. And we see even here in the United States, good things happen only after protests and demonstrations. The Black Lives Matter movement and the protests have changed things in the United States dramatically. There's now a different attitude toward police brutality. Now governments at all levels, the federal, state, and municipal, are taking action against police brutality. New laws are coming on board. The police officer who killed George Floyd was convicted and hopefully will be sentenced to a long sentence. In past years, even though the videotape showed the killing, he might have been able to get away with that. So the Black Lives Matter protest made a difference, and the protest that we are now conducting on behalf of Uganda should also make a difference. We have to make it difficult for the powers that be to pretend that these crimes are not occurring. In the United States, that pretended for a long time that they did not know about police brutality. That is no longer possible. We have to make the same kind of protest with respect to Uganda and make it impossible to ignore the human lives and the value of Ugandan lives. Black lives matter everywhere, including in Uganda.
Yes, thank you. In the short interruption here, David, I understand that our next speaker, David Lewis, is already online. So if you see him, please unmute him. Then Milton can start his interview. In the meantime, I wanted to ask Milton that, for example, you're talking about Myanmar. I'm also looking at what happens in Belarus.
Yes.
And I very much favor the freedom struggle of the Belarusian people. But it just strikes me that the leader of the opposition is meeting a president of one of the European countries almost every day.
Yes.
He is able to speak to everyone.
Yes. And I think this comes from concerted action. And I believe we are on the path in the right direction in Uganda. I think everything that we've seen, all the statements made, including by the EU Parliament on February 11, did not just come randomly. These have all been because of the efforts of Ugandans in Uganda, on the ground, and in diaspora. So I think if we continue with this trend, we also will be in a position where we will be able to engage directly with the leaders of the G7 countries and EU countries.
David, have you already identified the Secretary General?
Nico, I just need to make sure we know what the name they've logged in as. We have 3 Davids. One is myself, one is David, and one is David versus Goliath. Could he be under Secretary General? Maybe not. And NUP, maybe not. So if we can just confirm the name with which Comrade Honorable David Lewis has logged in, we will give him the opportunity to unmute himself.
Request if he can try to put on his video. And by the way, he's telling me Pavilion is his name.
Pavilion. Pavilion. Oh, fantastic. Very easy to spot.
We're doing this Robert Dubber style.
I think this is a first for us. Okay, Pavilion, we are giving you the opportunity to unmute yourself. Welcome to Speak Up, this global protest. I'll hand you over to our capable moderator and interviewers right now. Hello, Comrade David, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, excellent.
And I can see you. Very happy to see you, Milton. Very happy to see you, Nico, and everyone else on the call.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you so much for joining. And I now give the word to Milton.
All right, thank you. Thank you, comrades. Thank you, friends. I think we've been allotted 15 minutes. So I'll try to pose as many questions as possible because there's so much that people want to know. And maybe we can keep the responses also as brief but precise as possible so we can cover a lot of ground. So first of all, David, welcome to this very critical online protest. And we're going to engage the G7 leaders in terms of trying to make it difficult for them to have two standards, one for other parts of the world and one for Africa, including Uganda. So I would like you to speak directly first to the G7 leaders, if in fact they were online with us right now. Tell us what you would tell them directly and be very explicit. They need to know not only in theoretical terms, but in practical terms, what the abductions that are ongoing, the torture, and the murder randomly of Ugandan citizens is doing. So maybe we can start off just with that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Milton. And definitely, it's a shame, I must say, that there seem to be different kinds of human beings that we're talking about here. The G7 leaders, and indeed all world leaders, need to understand that, you know, when we talk about human rights, we're talking about universal rights, and we cannot have different standards applied to Africa and different standards applied to other parts of the world. We cannot see, you know, them rise up, look at human rights situations in Russia, in other places, more seriously than they are. The people of Uganda and indeed the people of many African countries have been crying out. But, you know, the response has been very slow. It has been, you know, here and there, it has not been as robust. It has not been as concrete. What we continue to see is messages from people like the Prime Minister of Britain at some point congratulating Museveni towards his swearing in and looking forward to a call with him. This is a man who, as we all know, has abducted people in the lead up to the election. We saw, you know, so many people killed, people brutalized. As we speak, many of our comrades are still in safe houses. And I'm sure everyone understands that when we say safe houses in the Ugandan context, we are talking about torture chambers. You know, just last week, we saw 32 of our people who had been kept under illegal detention for more than a month, being produced before a military court, denied legal access to the lawyers, denied to them, and also, you know, remanded to Chicharia prison. So that is a situation we're talking about. Nubian Lee, Eddie Mutwe, Dan Magic, and many of our people have been kept now at Chicharia for more than 6 months without trial. And I mean, what we see is the world continuing to look at Uganda as, as if it's business as usual. We've done activism, we've tried to raise voices, we've tried to talk about this, but it's a shame, I must say, and I would appeal to world leaders, especially the G7, to really, you know, for lack of a better word, it looks as though it's racist to try and look at, you know, one section of people as deserving of human rights and another group of people as not deserving of human rights. What we're talking about are leaders who continue to support the Ugandan state, who continue to give it military aid. You've just talked about the IMF, which is considering a request of a lot of money to Uganda. With all the corruption that goes on here, and you know, you look at the Transparency International and all other bodies which have, you know, showed the kind of corruption that goes on in this country. Uganda's own Auditor General every year releases damning reports about the corruption situation, and yet we continue to see these countries turning the other side as if nothing is happening in this country. So I would really appeal to them to stop, assisting a regime of blood and national shame.
All right, so now, David, this is the other question then. In terms of if there is an international, if there's a foreign government considering not supporting the regime with finances, but at the same time, trying to balance in not harming regular Ugandan citizens who deserve support, what advice are you giving them? What type of supports would be recommendable and what should not be supported?
We have made it very clear that, first of all the support should not go through the government of Uganda. And we are glad and grateful for some institutions which are giving aid directly, and including some US programs which go directly to the communities, like USAID sometimes channels its support towards HIV directly to the health sector and not through the government of Uganda. So we are alive to the fact that there's a challenge, there's a balance to make. On one hand, even when the foreign aid is directed towards these independent or given directly to communities, then Museveni has enough money to spend on guns, to spend on ammunition, to spend on all these other things, crazy things that he does. But we don't want to affect the common people who are sometimes beneficiaries of this assistance. So we have made it clear that the support should not be extended to the government. And we know that a lot of money, for example, from America goes directly to the military here in Uganda. And we're saying that must and should stop, because be it the training, whatever is given to them in form of support is used to repress the people of Uganda, and that should stop.
All right, so David, now in terms of the military support, it is clear that this regime has no respect for human rights, in fact, has been committing crimes against humanity, going on for 35 years now, and still getting the financial military support from the United States, including the training. Do you think, and would you say, the United States bears moral as well as legal responsibility for these atrocities being committed by the regime supported by the United States resources?
Definitely they bear a moral responsibility. And I think it does not apply to the US only, it applies to all other countries which continue to hobnob with an outright dictatorship, a government which has no regard for human rights whatsoever. So I would certainly say they bear a moral responsibility, because, I mean, how on earth do you continue to work and to support a regime that has clearly showed you that they are not interested in human rights, and they will violate them with impunity? And every once in a while they come up and say, to hell with the West. General Museveni has been on TV several times saying that. And on the other hand, they continue to work with these guys and to give them support, military aid, and all sorts of support. So certainly they bear a moral responsibility.
So in terms of, in this country, change in the United States, which I'm very familiar with, and in many Western countries as well, change occurs after mass movements and mass protests. And I gave an example of the Black Lives Movement, for example, in the United States. And they tend to also gauge situations in other countries, including Uganda, by the level of mass protest that they see. They're not aware, in many cases, but some of course are, that in Uganda's situation, it is very different. The regime has not hesitated to shoot peaceful demonstrators with live bullets. And we saw that November 18, November 19, during the massacres when they protested the arrest of Bobby Wine. So given that type of paradox, or quandary rather, how can opposition, in fact, I hesitate to use the word opposition, and I'm going to ask you the next question about that, because people that won elections should not be referred to as opposition. But let's say, how can the people who are opposing the dictatorship communicate effectively while their hands are tied up in not being able to protest the way people in the West are used to observing, engaging the problems in other countries?
Yeah, first of all, we believe that the countries we're talking about, the Western countries, America, for example, through their embassy and indeed through all other channels, they're able to understand what goes on in Uganda. They know that although on our law books, Article 29 provides for a right to the citizens of Uganda to protest peacefully and armed, that in practice is not there. If you just go to the streets to protest, you'll be shot dead. And, you know, we've tried it, we've seen it. People have just tried to gather. If people gather to, you know, hold a demonstration, in 2 minutes, the military will come in and they will shoot people. And if you are lucky, I mean, like people who are trying to protest about the rigging of the elections and all that, majority of them have not even been brought to court 5-6 months later, from January 14th up to now. So, I mean, I believe that platforms like this, and online protests like this, is an important tool. I just hope that the policymakers in Washington, D.C., the policymakers in Europe and all other countries are watching, and I hope they will just not stop at watching, but take some form of action, because ultimately we need to see that they don't use the double standards. I mean, people in Uganda may not be able to assemble as much as the people in Myanmar and indeed in other countries, because of the situation here on ground. But I think these countries should and must understand the circumstances and the dynamics. In the lead up to the election, after November 18th and 19th, we saw a crackdown like has not been seen before in this country. Thousands of young people were abducted, most of them picked from their homes in the dead of the night and taken to, you know, safe houses. Many of them kept away from their families. And General Museveni came out and took responsibility for this. And he clearly said on TV that SFC was holding some of them. These are his guards. And, you know, so it's very clear what is going on here. And I think the West does not need to first wait for, you know, thousands of people to gather in the streets of Kampala to be able to take action.
Okay, now also remind some of the G7 leaders in the clearest terms possible how NUP actually won the elections. Remind them. I think that's important, because when people start referring to NUP as the opposition, they might sometimes end up forgetting that in fact you're referring to the group the party that won the election. So remind them of some of the clearest evidence.
Well, we've made it very clear that we won the January 14th election, and it was, I mean, despite all the efforts to rig and do all sorts of things. Before even I talk about winning, I should talk about the level of violence. And I need to tell them that what we had was really not an election, because we had our agents everywhere across the country arrested. You know, we sent in supervisors, including our diaspora team leader, Haman Ainebona, who was just picked up as soon as he arrived in Lira to deliver voting materials. And all across the country, our supervisors and polling agents were taken away. The country, of course, was put in a total blackout. The internet was switched off. Not just social media, but the entire internet infrastructure in the country was switched off. Radios were intimidated and ordered what to produce and what not to talk about. And some of them who defied and tried to do live coverages of what was going on were actually closed down. And so you had a situation where I cannot even say that there was an election. But when we were able to gather as many DR forms as we possibly could, we could see that substantially the results were in our favor. And when we did our computation, we found that we won an election with 54.19%. But General Museveni, of course, using the Electoral Commission, which he appoints, and the entire system, which is in control of, could not declare us. But even, I mean, we won this election even despite all manner of rigging that took place across the country. In the western part of the country and the northern part of the country, there was literally no voting. And so soldiers had access to polling stations. They would go, take all these voting materials away, critique all ballot papers or get critiqued ballot papers, put them in the ballot boxes, and in the evening declare that they had won. Most of our people were gathering the DR forms and to bring them to us. And if you see our computation, it did not include several DR forms which were confiscated, because some of the people who were gathering these DR forms on behalf of NUP were arrested Of course, the DR forms were taken out from them. We wrote to the police and the military, asked them to give these forms back to us, which we are entitled to by the law, and some of our requests went unanswered too. So that is the situation that transpired on January 14th.
Right, so
Comrade Milton, thank you so much for taking us through this really insightful and informative discussion. We always, as a ritual in respect of our fallen comrades, we always observe a minute of silence for them, which we do at 3 o'clock. Now that Honorable David Lewis has just completed speaking, I'd like to ask everyone who's joined in before we proceed with this very, very important conversation and interview to respect and stay silent for 1 minute starting now, so that we can bear the souls of those who have departed for the struggle that we continue to fight right now. The 1 minute starts now. Thank you so much. May their souls rest in eternal peace. Thank you so much, Comrade Milton and Comrade David. Back to you.
Thank you. All right, so I think we have about 3 more minutes allotted, so I'll make it quick and just 3 quick questions. I'm sure not only Ugandans in Uganda and in diaspora, but the international community also, that may sympathize with the struggle and the victory of Nupe, in fact, are thinking, what is next going forward? If the mission is to transition away from dictatorship and to unseat this military regime, what are some of the agenda items going forward? And can you address that briefly?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I'm really glad that we are honoring our comrades who are falling in these struggles. I continue to call upon you all comrades to pray for our friends. The gentleman whose t-shirt, who's on my picture now, is in hospital. It's called Achileo Chivumbi. He's also been part of the detainees at Chitalia, one of the political prisoners. In fact, he lost his father a few months back, and he was not able to go and even pay his last respects. And that speaks to the cost this whole persecution is having on our people. But of course, what we call upon the world, first of all, is not to legitimize an illegitimate regime, not to continue giving it assistance and propping it up in many ways, not to recognize it. And indeed, the US came out with a statement which clearly indicated that the election was not free and fair. And we do not want it to just be in rhetoric, we want to see it in action. We have also called for specific actions, and we are grateful for the sanctions, for the visa restrictions and that kind of thing. But we believe that more of this, we should see more of this. We want to see more sanctions under the Magnitsky Act, visa restrictions and asset freezes. Some of the people who are well known, who have been committing crimes against humanity, who have been abducting our people, who have been, clamping down, any sort of peaceful assembly. You remember very well when we tried to take a petition to the United Nations offices and the military came and completely crashed down on journalists and all other people who are gathered there. So we want to see the world taking strong action and indeed to make it clear that the rights which are applicable to other parts of the world, Europe and the West generally, must equally be applicable to Africans. So we want to see more action. We think the reason why General Museveni and indeed many dictators stay in power is because of the support, direct or indirect, which they receive from nations of the world. And so we want General Museveni and his legitimate regime to be isolated so that the people of Uganda have an opportunity to speak and be heard, and therefore able to reclaim the victory which the people of Uganda gave to NUP and to their leader, Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi.
All right, so our time is exhausted, so I'll just make this as the final question. In Romania in 1989, when the dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, who had committed gross human rights violations for many years, when he was being tried by the tribunal, they actually said not even his worst crimes was all the killings and the destruction of families that he did, but they said the worst crime he had committed was to kill hope in Romania. With NUP's really outstanding performance in the campaign and the massive support that people showed by coming out and then voting, do you think hope has been restored in Uganda? And you yourself, are you hopeful that change will happen, and preferably not 5 years from today, as the dictator would prefer? I'm sure he would prefer to continue with this illegitimate regime until the next election. So that's the question. Are you hopeful? And if you are, then tell us why you have hope. And that would be my final question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I must admit that there are days in the past when it all looked bleak. But we are reminded that, there have been worse dictators than Museveni. And, there are many recent examples of the African continent. People who seemed, unmovable, people who seemed, firm in their dictatorship. And, if you look at Gaddafi, look at Hussein Mubarak, al-Bashir, and all these other dictators who ravaged countries and caused incredible pain on the citizens. And indeed, the citizens in those countries, in some cases, lost hope. But I want to say that we are hopeful, we are optimistic. We know that the task ahead is really, really difficult, and it's there are many times which are very depressing when you look at every day when you receive calls of people are abducted, more people are abducted, and then the dictator, after abducting some of them, tries to buy them and to pay them so that they begin working for him and that kind of thing. But I think we have every reason to hope. We have every reason to continue struggling until we see change in our country, because in any case, do we have any alternative? Because every day that General Museveni spends in power is more corruption, more poverty on our people, more repression, more human rights abuses, and all other such evils. So we have no option but to remain hopeful and to continue working for change in our country.
All right, thank you, David, very much. And we wish you the best in the resistance. And of course, we are committed in supporting the resistance as well. Thank you. Back to you, Nico.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Milton. Also, please stay around for the interview with Matthias and Puga. And David, I would like to ask you if you have a couple of minutes for a question from the audience.
Okay, maybe 2 more minutes, because like I said, I had another meeting coming up, but I can stay on and take 1 or 2 questions.
Okay, thank you so much. So first of all, there is a question by Linek. He is saying, thanks, Secretary General. My question is that let us be informed on any funding institution that is able to fund dictator Museveni, such that we storm it earlier before it approves their request. We use the Twitter army. We are ready to defend and fight against anyone trying to fund Museveni. In short, there are many Twitter volunteers available to support the struggle online. What do you think about that?
Certainly, a lot of times we don't get this information, but when we get this information, we'll put it out there. And I really appreciate the people, the Ugandans on Twitter, and of course, the friends of Uganda who are continuing to push very hard on Twitter, on Facebook, and all other channels. And indeed, as and when we know that, the international community is giving funds to Uganda, we'll make this information available. Of course, like I've said, we've been victims of a lot of cyber attacks. You notice that our official Twitter accounts were attacked by the government. The Facebook page was hacked into. Our website the moment we started uploading evidence of voter fraud, of the fraud that happened during the election, our website was attacked and put down. So this is what we're talking about. But now we're trying to restore these sites, hopefully with more security features, and then we'll be able to share all this information with the world.
Yeah, by the way, it's really good that the noob_UG account is online again. So let's use that in the struggle. And as you know, the diaspora have at this moment like 6 or 7 accounts. So maybe you can also ask our comrades with noob_UG if they can connect to the diaspora accounts. I have one final question from Herbert. He is asking, what measure do you have put in place to accelerate the demand for our comrades in prison, and also demand that IMF and World Bank stops funding the Museveni regime?
Yeah, first of all, what we've tried to do, we've tried all legal avenues to try and get our people out of prison. Like I said, the tragedy is that even while we're trying to get the comrades out of prison, more are being sent there. Just last week, we had 32 more people being sent to prison, having been under illegal detention, and they appeared in court with clear marks of torture. Myself, other NUP leaders and lawyers were all prevented from going to court. Remember that myself, Honorable Kyagulanyi, Joel Senyonyi, and other leaders are not allowed to visit these comrades in prison. We were banned because we came out and talked about the conditions in prison, and then the government said we are no longer going to be allowed to visit these people in prison. So this is the situation, but we've tried all legal avenues, including we went to the High Court. The High Court, said this matter is before another court, and military court, and therefore we are not able to interfere. We went to the Constitutional Court. We've been waiting for a date. We've not been able to get one. We've gone to the General Court Martial, applied for bail, and continue to do that. So these are some of the efforts we're trying to put in place. But of course, we believe that we should even look at other international bodies, and that's why we filed a complaint with the ICC, why we've gone to the East African Court of Justice, and all other avenues, legal and otherwise, that we are trying to use. But we believe that legal avenues are not enough, and such a protest is a clear and important strategy in trying to get freedom for our people who are under illegal detention.
Okay, thank you so much for the time that you have created to talk to us. People in the chat are very happy that you joined, so thank you very much for all you're doing for the struggle.
Thank you very much.
I want to give it back to you, David.
Thank you so much, Nico, and thank you to our guest speaker for this session, Comrade David Lewis. Thank you so much for the very informative and encouraging words from yourself. You guys are at the front line. We know how hard it is. Anything we can do to support is definitely something we're keen to do. And thank you, of course, Comrade Milton, for taking us through those questions. I believe we have another guest who we'll be expecting at some point. So please hang around, because we'd love you to use the opportunity to send questions through. Just before we go through and pick up, we're just about to pick up a few hands so that we can give those of you who are attending this protest the opportunity to speak. I'd like to invite, can I just ask that if you would like to speak and you've got your hands up, please give us a proper name that we can address you by, rather than a phone name. That way we can address you civilly. So I'll avoid any names that I can't pronounce, that are not normal sounding names. So Umaya, you have your hands up. Thank you for joining us. Please, can you unmute yourself? Hello, Umaya, can you hear us?
Yeah, I do hear you, sir.
Thank you so much. Please introduce yourself. Welcome to Speak Up, this G7 global protest. I think you have a bit of background noise. Can you please ask the people behind you to turn the volumes down? Do you have background noise?
Is too high. My volume background is high.
Yes, we can hear people in the back.
My back.
If you can just make sure we can hear a bit of noise coming in from the background. If you can ask the people around there to keep the volume low so that we can hear what you're going to say.
Since I'm in the
Hello?
center, I'm in the center. I have no control on the sound, but I don't know. Let me try to increase my voice so that you can get me, sir.
Okay, Umaya, please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're calling from and share with us what you have on your mind. You have 5 minutes starting now.
Yeah, I'm very glad to have this chance to have a word to you. And I'm just sending my congrats to our President Robert Chagulanyi Ssentamu. I'm coming here from Kasanga along Gaza Road. My view goes to just this government of President Museveni, who is just leading us in a bloodletting. To me, I'm just sending my vision to the Uganda, all people of Uganda and abroad, that we are just going to join ourselves together so that we can unite, as our president told us, Chagulanyi Ssentamu, that the more you unite, this is the only solution we can chase away this dictator. So Ugandans, do not fear. You can get an example from those people abroad Uganda, that they can also confess their rights, just for us who are in the struggle. For us who are people in Uganda, we live and take and care and we take less, yet the people abroad are just fighting for us. We just on social media, just reading and comment on comments, but no practice we do. If they tell us, maybe our president told us that we can participate in the struggle even though we are not on the street, but we can do it ourselves. But people take less, people take unknown, they think that those people abroad, they can fight for us for all. But I'm just call all Ugandans have said it like more than 3 times. Come together so that we can join our hands, we can join our hearts, our feelings, and we protect our votes, because all of us, we know that we voted for President Robert Chagulanyi Ssentamu. But here in Kasanga, the place where I live, the people are really take us as a bad people. The police, they can ask, for example, that dictator introduced what we call curfew. But this guy said that the other time of curfew, it remain at 3 p.m. But the guys, the moment they said that we close the shops at 7 p.m., they started chasing us away, saying that go and sleep. Yet they said that we have to go and sleep at 3 p.m. So that's what we see. The dictator is just forcing us to go under his back. No one has to raise our voice. So I'm sending my warning to all Ugandans. Come together, let us follow what our President Robert Chagulanyi Ssentamu, whom we elected on the 14th January, so that we can follow what he tells us. Let us participate in the struggle. Don't leave the struggle for only those foreigners, those people who are abroad the Uganda. All open us. We can use our phones, we can use our minds, we can use our words, we can use what we do. It is very easy. You can just wear a shirt like that one, David.
As you summarize your presentation, Umaya, you've got 30 seconds. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. As I'm summarizing, I was going to send the last thing, that we can participate in the struggle through, like you have pressed the shirt saying that speak up. Even if we Uganda, we can do that. You can put on a shirt, you can put on a ring, you can put on a cape. When there is anything that shows that you are not safe, Ugandans, we are not safe. Ugandans, we are not safe. So it's not easy to go on the street because all the police is under this dictator. So you can just participate in the struggle through using yourself. Just put on. Like me, I just labeled all my shop. I labeled it that we are not safe. That we are not safe. Everybody come to buy anything at my shop. Reads that we are not safe. We voted for President Robert Chagulanyi. Museveni must go. That's the.
Thank you.
It seems that.
Thank you so much, Comrade Umaya. I think we get the gist of your message. Everyone can do something to contribute towards the struggle. And Maya has given some suggestions about having your messages on your shirts, on your caps. But we've always been encouraging people who are out there, those of you who are following us, involve yourself in protests like this. This is an opportunity for us to get together. This protest is live every Saturday. Today we're having a big extra special one because we're protesting in Cornwall against the G7 countries. So it's a bit longer, but every Saturday from 2 p.m. this is where we meet to talk about what's on our minds. We share our minds publicly because it shows the dictator that we are not afraid to speak. Thank you so much, Omaya. I'd like to pass on the microphone to Mr. Chongo C. And those of you who've got your hands up, please make sure you've got a name that I can refer you to rather than the name of your phone, so that we can invite you to speak. Mr. Chongo C, please could you unmute yourself?
Oh, thank you so much. My name is Mr. Chongo CH. I'm speaking live from Zambia. And I'm glad to be here in this particular protest, which I think that it's very necessary. And when I speak like this, I'm not speaking as a Zambian, but I'm speaking as an African. I have been a Pan-African activist and representing or working for different Pan-African organizations, but I'm speaking as Mr. Chongo here, a concerned African citizen over what has been going on in Uganda. And I don't want, because right now, from the time or the year when I was born, I was 10 years in power. And today, 27 years, still talking about Museveni. So the whole life that I've lived on earth, I've been only learning about Museveni in Uganda. So this tells us something that I think even when we know that there is, something that we may benefit from President Museveni, but I think it is time for young people to take over as well. And I'm very much concerned because of a lot of stories which I've been following in Uganda. There have been reports of gross violations of human rights in Uganda. And here we see that there is no much effort which has been put by the international community. Of course, I appreciate some of the effort which are being put, but it is not satisfying us as African citizens because we want to see the rights of our fellow Ugandans and Africans respected in Uganda. And when we call upon the international community, we also appeal to the local Africans and other Ugandans to say, please, can we join hands together in fighting for the rights of our fellow Ugandans or Africans in Uganda? Because if the rights of Ugandans are not respected, it means even us as Africans, we are affected because Uganda is not an island. We live in the same global village, and therefore it's our responsibility to protect the rights of our fellow citizens in Africa. So it's an appeal to each and every concerned global citizen to join forces in fighting for the rights of the Ugandans in Uganda. And thank you so much for the efforts and all the sacrifice which have given by the NUP, and also the sacrifices which have been given by the international communities to fight for the peace and the rights of the Ugandans. I say thank you so much for all your efforts. And I look forward to see peace and the sanity in the Ugandan politics restored as soon as possible. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chongo. Exactly in time. That's how we like it. So our next guest, which is Joel Iseberia, is already on the Zoom call. So we will start preparing to have our interview with him. But in the meantime, we have time for one extra contribution. I see that David and Goliath are here. David and Goliath, which of you wants to make a contribution?
Hello,
You can now,
everybody.
you can now unmute.
Hello, everybody. I think I'm unmuted.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I greet you all, everybody on the forum. It's actually my first time also to be on this protest. I don't know if my black card is readable or it's not readable. I don't know.
I can read, "Oh Lord, our God, rescue Ugandans." That's the part I can read.
Okay, yes, that's the part you can read because I use that name David versus Goliath because I realized that this battle that we are in, when I looked, because I'm a Christian, everything that is happening now, it is what happened to David during his time when he was fighting Goliath. It is exactly what is happening now. And David just took a stone and defeated Goliath. And this is what we are doing. Kyagulanyi looks like a young musician like David, and like he's doing that, and the Goliath is boasting, but with one stone, he is going to defeat this Goliath of Museveni. And that is why I made it like that. And I said David versus Goliath. I want to appeal to all those superpowers, the G7, that Goliath was defeated with just a stone. So please don't join yourselves to the wicked Museveni government, Central Bank, Bank of China. I don't know who else funds Museveni to kill people. But with all this funding that you are giving him, he is killing people. He is destroying human beings with all these funds. And that is the prayer. I know with prayer, we can defeat, we can do a lot of things. I'm a believer in prayer. And what I also wrote is that, Lord, deliver Ugandans. That is the prayer for Hezekiah. He was facing the same battle. If you go and read 2 Kings chapter 19 in the Bible, that story is a very interesting story. And he prayed this prayer, "Oh Lord, our God, rescue us Ugandans from the power of dictator Museveni and his government rule, and from the power of all these countries, organizations, institutions who are supporting Museveni. They are supporting him in different ways to stay in power, to arrest, abduct, and kill Ugandans, especially NUP and People Power supporters. Father, rescue us from the power of intruders and invaders who want to steal and grab the land and the resources of indigenous Ugandans. Rescue us, Father, from every witchcraft powers which are assigned to eat the flesh and drink the blood of Ugandans. Because what is happening now is like they just want Ugandans to just fade away and then they take over. And this, we are not going to allow it spiritually. They shall not drink the blood of Ugandans and they shall not eat our flesh. Instead, our David Kyagulanyi, he is going to defeat the Goliath. God is going to do it in his way. And we have prayed it and we say that, oh Lord, when you do this for us, all the world will know that you alone, oh Lord, are the God. And that is how I ended my prayer, that in the name of Jesus we pray, amen. Yes, I'm actually based here in Europe, and I normally use another name, but it just came to me and said, yes, we are fighting a war, a physical war, but we are also fighting a spiritual war. We should add this together, physical and spiritual. And when we add it together, we are going to defeat Museveni. Like the way everybody didn't know that David could defeat the Goliath, we are going to defeat all these powers. And I urge them not to sit on the same table. Psalms 1:1 says, do not sit on the same table with people, with wicked people. So we urge all these countries, that is the thing today, not to sit on the same table and you come and smile and you come and ask us for petition. Bring evidence after evidence. Please, okay. There is enough evidence. And please stop supporting the dictator, stop giving him money, because your money—
Can I please ask 30 seconds to close?
Yes, because that money you're giving him is not a blessing to you, because it is full of blood. So just stop it, and in the end, we are winners. The NUP and the People Power and our President Kyagulanyi we are going to be winners in the mighty name of Jesus. We have prayed. Amen. Thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you.
Now, I was going through the gallery looking for our next speaker, Joel. Joel, I'm trying to find you, but doing that, I see that very many people have placards, which is really great to see. So let me just mention a couple. I have here, I see Mike's iPhone, G7, Uganda is bleeding. Thank you, Mike, for that great placard. I see Umaya, you have a placard, but it's really hard to read. M7, stop funding the dictator. Yes, very, very clear. And then I see Kigundu, Drake. There's a bit light behind your paper, so we can't really read it well. Chiagolanji Roberts, I just guess won the elections. Yes. Thank you very much. And Mubiru, stop funding the dictator. This is really an online demonstration with all these placards. Thank you so much. And if I see more, I will read more. Now, first, I did ask our next guest, Joel. I asked him to unmute. If you are unmuted, Joel, please say something. And if not, I'm going to go to a next contribution. Okay, I think Joel is not here yet. So I see a hand up by Matt Van SMK, and I'm going to ask you to unmute. Sorry, try again, please. Something went wrong. Hi, Matt Van.
You can hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you, but maybe speak a bit louder.
Okay.
Great. 5 minutes, the floor is yours.
You can hear me well now?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank you for a great job that you're doing, Mr. Nico and the group. We thank you all for standing with us in this struggle for liberating our country, Uganda. My point that I would like to put is that our friends, I may call them friends, that are called the GS countries, the G7 countries, standing by the side of the dictator is not all that we expected from them, because if all the time they are saying that they stand for democracy, they stand for human rights, and at this time when you call upon their help to help us in this situation, they still stand at the side of the dictator. So that is kind of hypocrisy that they are showing to us. I don't know how the amount of blood that these people need so that they can stop whatever is going in Uganda. People are dying at the daily basis. Museveni is killing people using the army of the country. And these people will always share the evidence to them, but I don't know how much evidence do they need so that they can do something as help Ugandans. I continue to call all fellow Ugandans and non-Ugandans that are friends of Uganda to stand with us in this hard situation. Let us speak up. We do everything together. I know at the end we shall win Dictator Museveni because he's already an aged man. He has no ideas for our generation. Whatever he's doing is making sure that he stays in power with his family. So, but I know with all the struggle, with all the efforts, when we come together, I know time will come, we shall win. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that contribution. I see Henry Livingston, and I've just asked him to unmute. Henry, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very fine. Thank you so much. My name is Henry Livingston, and apparently I reside in Germany. And I'm a Ugandan by nationality. And yeah, I have a family back home. And yeah, I have also some few family members that also live here. I'd like to first thank everyone that is part of the organizing committee of this online protest. And you're really guys doing a very, very great job in the expression of our voices and fight of freedom. And first of all, I would also like to congratulate everyone back home that went through the elections we had recently. Don't know easy ones, there are shuffle scandals and everything. But then I've really came in somehow late. This is maybe my fourth or fifth time here. I've come in a little bit late because I had some questions for David Lois Luvongwea. But then if anyone here talks to him maybe, and if he's not here, maybe you could help me, maybe you reach this question to him. I would say that I'm a youth, by the way. I'm 20 years. First of all, I would like to thank that Honorable Kyagulanyi influenced us to engage ourselves in politics, to open our eyes, to give us these things that our country is in a delicate and brittle state. Then on the other hand, I don't get to decide what the National Unity Platform does. I don't get to decide what they have to decide because we're entrusted power in them. But then on the other hand, if on the 14th of January, Ugandans gathered and they casted their votes for Robert Kyagulanyi, and then he became the president of Uganda. And to me, I regard him as a president-elect of Uganda, regardless he hasn't sworn in it. And then one thing I'm not getting that is really confusing my mind: how do they come to a conclusion of voting a leader of opposition? Why are they regarding themselves now as opposition? It really set me back a little bit, and I really don't understand this at all. I don't know if it's going really to upset some of you, but I would like to express what I feel. Because if we won the elections, I would say that the move they took was, I don't get to decide anything they do, but they took a very senseless move of electing their leader of opposition. And they didn't stop from there, also electing all this cabinet that he starts with and everything. To me, I would really like to say that it makes and it deteriorates my hope of us liberating Uganda. I just wanted to ask this to David, but I'm sorry I missed him. And this is all that I've been planning in my mind because it's been all over social media. I mean, I'm sorry if I'm being a little bit I'm overreacting, but this is what is up to me, and this is what I just wanted to ask, because I know we're doing better so far, but then this, I don't know if they reached a time and now they are diverted, or if now they've also agreed that Museveni won the elections and now they are regarded as opposition, and they took it in heart. We still fight. We wouldn't like to see them giving up on the last minute, because Museveni doesn't even have 10 more years. He doesn't even have 10 more years with us, really. And then you regard yourself as opposition. Oh, it's a big step back.
Yeah, Henry, I would like to answer your question, since the Secretary General is no longer here. I also puzzled with that feeling that is it rightful that we call ourselves opposition? And I think it's actually the good words, because we're not opposing a democratic leader, because the democratic leader is Kyagulanyi. We are opposing a dictatorship, and that is a uniform word, that everywhere in the world where there is a dictatorship, there's an opposition opposing the dictator. And that is actually, you can even see it as a badge of honor. And they all suffer in the same way as we do, in prisons, tortured, taken possibilities away. The people in Belarus, the lady, Svetlana is her first name, and she has a difficult last name. They also won the election. She is called opposition. Yes, she is opposition, and she's also the rightful president of Belarus, just like Chigolanji is the rightful president of Uganda. Unfortunately, our MPs need to do their work. We know that because the cows voted as well, that we didn't get the amount of seats that we should have had. But I don't think there is an alternative for the word opposition to use until Museveni leaves. Then we'll see that the real majority comes to power. So in the meanwhile, I should inform you that actually the question of majorities and minorities was something that I would discuss with our guest Joel, but he has temporary disconnected. And also the other guest that is coming up is Matthias Mpuga. I'm also trying to get a hold of him. So it is quite exciting session going on. So what I'm also going to do is to look up another video of the demonstration that we had this morning. And in the meantime, I would like to give another person the chance to give a contribution. So Mike, if you can please unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, and thank you for that great placard that you made. G7 Uganda is bleeding, right?
Okay.
Or no, it also says silent or something. Can you show it?
Oh, this is...
Uganda is bleeding silently. No, very well done.
And then we have here, Museveni, bring back our people.
Bring back our people. That is really a great slogan. Okay,
Yeah.
Go ahead with your 5-minute contribution, Mike.
Okay, thank you so much, members. I'll start by introducing myself. My name's Michael Fredericks. You can refer to me as the Anonymous, residing in Tokyo for 25 years, originally working with the NRM government, but switched to the movement. Good evening, viewers, and it's a pleasure to meet everyone. I'll reserve my my questions. I'll wait until Mr. Mpuga comes in because they will go directly to the Secretariat. And I'm so blessed that I'm given a chance to speak to each and every one. But at least let me put one word across to the members of the community today. Thank you so much, David Steele, for joining up with putting up Uganda is Bleeding. Thank you, each and everyone. I would like to ask one question, maybe a suggestion, what we're gonna do as members of the diaspora. We've seen a drag in the support of the struggle because soon after the elections, people lost morale, especially within the diaspora. My question, or maybe my suggestion to each and every one would be to come up, what should we do to draw new strategies to rejuvenate the morale of all the support and the members of NUP? If anyone has any idea that we can come up to as a solution to this, will be very, very welcome. Please allow me to reserve other questions to our leadership in NUP, assuming Mr. Mpuga comes up on the in the meeting, we'll be able to address these questions as we go along. Please, members, don't hesitate to come up with the solutions and feel free to discuss this question I've put across. We'll need to come up with a solution, because I'm talking from a point that Tokyo, we have seen the downtrend of the morale of members. We all know what is going on in Uganda. We all know about the hacking. We all know all the propaganda and the diversions. But we as members of the revolution, if I may say, what strategies do we have? What can we do to rejuvenate, to keep our morale up, to sustain NOPE and until we get our win back? Because we all know that we won the elections. We need our win back. So we need to come up with a new strategy to rejuvenate this thing that we started. Thank you so much, everyone.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for your contribution. You pose a very valid question, and like you say, I'd like to invite people who are speaking to use your opportunity to share with us what you think we can do. From my point of view, I'd like to encourage everyone who's here to mark your calendars. If you're on Zoom, if you're following us on Facebook, mark your calendars. Every Saturday from 2 p.m. UK time, which is 4 p.m. Uganda time, we meet here. And the reason why we meet here is to do exactly what Mike is saying. We meet to speak up. We meet to remind the dictator that he can try and oppress the people back home, but as long as one of us, as long as two of us, and as long as thousands of us are able to talk, we will continue talking and we'll continue raising our voices. Do not hesitate to join in all sorts of aspects of this struggle. We're online. There are hashtags to follow. Please, comrades, very soon we will be taking you through a Twitter bombing session. If you've never tweeted, if you don't believe in the effectiveness of Twitter, stick around and you will see how effective it can be when you have 1,000 people sending a message to key people across the world. We are dealing directly with influencers and world leaders. Michael, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and for posing your very valid question. Please do not hesitate to keep your questions for when we have other speakers who you feel are better suited to answering your questions. Thank you so much, and thank you for the good work you're doing. And most importantly, thank you for joining the winning side. Thank you. I'd like to move on to a few more hands that we can invite to share what's on your mind. The way it works is you get 5 minutes to speak what's on your mind and use those 5 minutes to express yourself in any way, shape or form. Stella Nakato, you have the opportunity to speak, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Stella, welcome to this G7 Global Protest. Please introduce yourself, tell us where you're joining from, and share with us what's on your mind for the next 5 minutes. Over to you, Stella.
Thank you very much. People power, our power. My name is Stella Nakato from Australia, Melbourne. It's almost 1 a.m. here. Good morning on a Sunday. I have a couple of questions, but maybe I'll stick to the urgent questions. One, maybe a comment. One, as we really need someone like Mr. Mpuga to answer the question that Livingstone asked, because it's a genuine question that is really burning to so many people in diaspora. They don't know why we accepted to take up the opposition, that position as opposition. So we really need Mr. Mpuga to come and explain to us what it means. Another thing, we need to come up with a way of marketing Mr. Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
We need to come up with a way of marketing Mr. Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. First of all, the media in Uganda, they've denied him platform. He cannot move freely to different places to market himself. We need to get a PR for Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. We people in diaspora, we have to start that. If Mr. Kyagulanyi has to make a live every day, let it be. Otherwise, that's what Museveni wants. He's pushing him down. He's shadowing him. We can't hear about him anymore. It's killing us. We need to hear the words of principle. We need him to talk to us. The radio stations in Uganda cannot host him. The TV stations can't host him. He cannot be hosted anywhere. We have to come up with a way of hosting Kyagulanyi. If it means online, like the way we're doing now, let's do that. if we need to come up with a program where he has to address us every day, we need to come up with a way of promoting him. He needs a PR. We don't know who is doing his publicity, but he needs that. Otherwise, he's being shadowed, and that's what Museveni wants. Another thing, we need, we people in diaspora to really, not even diaspora, when Mr. Mpuga comes, I don't know if it's still possible, people with burning questions, please send those questions up front so that Mr. Mpuga finds those questions and answers them. It's more likely that he might not have all the time to get to your questions and answer them. But once those questions are written down, he can answer every question that you have.
Thank you, Stella. You've got 30
Thank
seconds,
you very much.
please. Thank you so much, Stella.
I'll end it there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us from Australia. We have had you as a guest before. You always take the time to join us. I think you can see where this is from the time you joined us. We use this as a platform to spread the word, and you're absolutely right. We will make sure that those questions are posed to Honorable Mpuga. And the question around engagement from the principal, yes, I believe we need to hear from the principal, but we are also making sure that we hear from the different leaders from the Secretariat, and that's why we had Honorable David Lewis on earlier. So let's make sure that we're taking the message from everyone, but we take the point around a lot more visibility of the principal. I think on your point, we are down here in Cornwall protesting against the G7 summit, and I was walking down with my shirt and my cap, and the Japanese news crew stopped me and asked me about Bobi Wine. So whilst we can say, yes, he needs to speak to us, we need to remember that every time a person sees you with a red shirt and a cap, it is very likely they're going to ask you about Bobi Wine. Be ready to speak up for Uganda. Do not miss the opportunity to speak about the comrades who are held in prison. Do not be afraid to speak up for the comrades who've lost their lives, and do not be afraid to speak up about the duplicity and the hypocrisy of the West in supporting and funding the dictator. Stella, you have 1 second to make a quick response, and then we'll move on to the next speaker. Thank you so much. If we can get you unmuted, hold on 1 minute.
Thank you. One thing that I forgot, we all know that everywhere in the world, COVID-19 is affecting each and everyone. Can we also, we all know about Bobi Wine's song, COVID-19, the coronavirus song, the remix with other musicians. Can we use that song everywhere on our protests, on our platforms, everywhere? It's going to market him more and more and more.
Thank you so much, Stella. That's a very good idea, very good suggestion. I'd just like to welcome all of you who are joining us for the first time to this global protest. We're here every Saturday from 2 to 4 p.m. UK time, which is 4 to 6 p.m. Uganda time. But today we've got an extra long special session because we're protesting in Cornwall. Comrades in the UK have traveled down south to Cornwall to protest against the G7. We're taking our message to the G7 to tell them to stop doing business as usual with the illegitimate dictator in Uganda. We will not stop raising our voices for the people of Uganda as long as we can breathe. I would like to take a few hands and move on the contributions. Andrew Change Uganda. Andrew Change Uganda. Can you hear me? Please unmute yourself if you can hear me.
Thank you, David. I welcome everyone to today's protest. I am so happy to be here as usual. This has been a very important opportunity for us to continue in touch and continue raising our queries and continue speaking to the authorities that be. David, I would like to share my screen if that's fine with you.
That's absolutely fine. Andrew, over to you.
Okay, I'm trying to find which screen I would like to share with you guys. Okay, there you go. Sorry for that. Today I would like to share my ideas using these screen slides, and I hope I'll be able to manage my 5 minutes quickly, productively. G7 funding Museveni illegally. And that sounds very strong. So anyone would quickly ask me, why would you say Museveni is being illegally funded? And this, who is G7? G7 is Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United States, and the United Kingdom. And these people are delaying our new Uganda. They are the reason our president is still in the corridor, because if Museveni did not have the funding from G7, His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi would be president of Uganda by now. But because there is money coming in with every excuse, including but not limited to escalating COVID-19, our president would be in his seat. President Kyagulanyi won the January 14, 2021 election, and that's why I know that the funding that is being given to Museveni is illegal. He is not the legitimate president of Uganda. The question would be, how do we know Kyagulanyi won the election? I was already prepared to make this presentation before our General Secretary came on. It's going to be so funny. We are on the same line of thought as I have prepared to speak on these matters concerning G7 funding, illegality, and the situation in Uganda. And luckily, when I checked today, I saw that the website is available for us to watch the results. And there's been someone who has been questioning about the results of National Unity Platform and of Robert Kyagulanyi. Please, if you visit this website, nupuganda.org, you will see the summary of results where His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi got 6.1 million, which is 54.19%. And this is available for us to see. So that's how I know that we won the election, and that's how I know that Museveni is being illegally funded by G7. Friends.
It's 4 o'clock.
Yeah, that's my clock. Those who love peace must learn to organize effectively as those who love war. I think this is where we need to strengthen if we are going to see our new Uganda quickly and fast. You must know in new Uganda, war is outdated. We are not going to sacrifice another 500,000 Ugandans, just like Museveni did. You know the stories of how he has been murdering us, even when we are continuously saying we are a peaceful people standing against dictatorship. G7 understands Museveni clearly. You see, he can capably call them idiots, but because they still understand him clearly, they continue to give him money. And this is the only reason why we are still here. So they understand a certain language, and this is where we need to lift ourselves and start making our points using the language that Museveni is communicating with the G7 people. Let's focus on these two, please. We are in delay because of France and the United Kingdom. This is so important. Let us go to this man's Twitter. The president of France. Total is in France, but he has also continued to recognize Museveni. That is his Twitter handle. You can visit him, we can tweet him. Let us continue to remind him. And I'm going to give you a few pointers of the things that we can highlight to this gentleman. The other gentleman we need to go to is this one, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Boris Johnson. This is his Twitter handle, @Boris Johnson. Let's go and visit these two. The Minister of Africa in the United Kingdom has continued to recognize the government of Uganda. And even Mr. Rahab has continued to recognize the government of Uganda, which is illegitimate, and they are funding this government. So let us visit them on Twitter. And when we visit them, we can ask them in the language that Museveni uses when he calls them idiots and they give him the money. You see, let us tell these people, just as they've gathered to make tax reforms, let them also have Museveni donation reforms quickly and speedily. Because the money they are lending, it is the sister of this gentleman, Frank Senteza, who was stepped over by a military truck, killed in the presence of his young sister. How shall the young sister continue to pay the money these people are lending Museveni, which was used to murder her brother? How will the children of this gentleman, Yasin Kauma, continue to pay the money which these people are lending Museveni when they bought guns to kill his father? We need to communicate and ask these questions to the two gentlemen I've shown you. Let us tell them these people are using the money to fake cases. Police catch ISO spies in petrol bomb attacks. Do you know how many of our brothers have been imprisoned? Canada, France, Germany, Italy, United Kingdom, US, you are funding these barbaric acts that result into abductions and murder of our people. We need to take this message to them on Twitter. Let's be clear. Let us remind them about the death of our sister, Rita Nabukeya. How will her children, who were left at the age of, I think, 2 and 4, how will they pay the money back when it was used to murder their mother? This is where we need to start communicating in the language these G7 people understand. If we are continuing to be polite, we will continue this debate. Our new Uganda will be delayed. Our president will be delayed by G7 funding Museveni illegally. Canada, France, Germany, Italy must be approached in the language they understand. Let us show them what their money is doing. Museveni has made a cabinet, which is a clear signal that he rigged this government. The president is General Museveni. The illegal vice president is Major Jessica Alupo. JJ Odong, illegal minister. General David Muhuz, illegal minister. General Moses Ali, illegal minister. General Kahindo Tafile, illegal minister. Museveni uses scare tactics. So he has made an entire army at the top brass of his illegal government so that Ugandans can chicken out. And all he's looking for is the money from the G7. And he has now iced the cake of his illegal government with a few useful idiots, like the Right Honorable Kadaga, who was Speaker of Parliament, right now being a deputy to someone whom, according to Semujunganda, is incapable of even being a CEO of a garbage collection company in Kampala. We have an attorney general in Kiriwa who doesn't know what Kiriwa does for Museveni. And who among us thinks Kiriwa is the attorney general? It is Museveni's son-in-law Kalujire, who is the attorney general in actual sense. Let us communicate these things. Let us show these people that we know what's going on. Let us go on Twitter. We use hashtag SOS, hashtag Museveni not my president, and his army of goons rigged our election. Guys, let us stop relenting. We are not relenting. Museveni has started owning up since the advent of the BBC documentary. Let us use it and communicate further the atrocities. Let us demand our freedom. Let us demand freedom of our colleagues, and let us demand that G7 stops funding Museveni. Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate being here.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Your submissions are very powerful. They're very impactful, and you're absolutely right. We should not give up. We should not lose hope, and we should not stop until the world knows that the dictator is not wanted by the people of Uganda. He's the illegitimate president or leader imposing himself on the people of Uganda, and we will not rest until our job is done. Andrew, and for those who are here, we'd just like to let you know we would love to have a copy of that presentation so that our friends and colleagues can upskill themselves with knowledge when they're engaging in whatever shape or form with the people. We have a message to send that we've not given up hope, and even though we're peaceful, we have to plan for this like we're planning a war. Thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you as always for your contribution. Yes, over to you, Nico.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so Andrew, that presentation was just great, and it reminded me of something very important. The fact that the loan is given to the Ugandan people. By the way, David, can you mute again, please? Where the government is supported by a minority, and it is morally questionable, like you were saying. Can this little sister be obliged when she grows up to pay back that loan that helped kill her brother? We know the answer is no, it's not morally justifiable. But I think we should also make it clear to the IMF, because IMF, when they give out loans, they look at the capability of a country to pay back that loan. And so for some kind of reason, IMF thinks that Uganda is going to sell millions of barrels of oil, and that is going to pay back the loan. Now that argument is already totally flawed, because we know that because of the Paris Agreement, oil has to stay in the ground. These are called stranded assets. Stranded assets are assets that are worthless. So it is totally immoral for the IMF to take these stranded assets into account. And even more so, because Museveni, as the dictator, has no saying about these stranded assets. It's the people of Uganda who decide about that. The people of Uganda are being ignored. And one thing that the IMF should acknowledge is that whatever it happens, the dictator is going to die. He is 75 years old. He's not like Kagame in Rwanda, who will be in power for some time because he's not that old. Museveni will go. We don't even have to fight for it. It will be COVID, or it will be cancer, or whatever disease that suddenly becomes very nice when it comes to Museveni. And in that case, we might be able to take back power, because we're not going to accept his son being the next president. And the IMF has to understand that we, the majority of the Ugandans, are not going to pay back this loan. Why would we pay back money that was used to kill us, to torture us? So IMF has to make another calculation that the chances of Museveni dying in the next 10 years is about 80%. Yeah, because we know that even the present age of the president is probably frauded. So he's going to die, and sooner or later, the opposition is going to take over. And even if that opposition is not Bobby Wine, because he has been followed up by someone else, no one is going to be saying, this is a valid loan. We're not going to pay back that loan. So I think we should make that very clear. And actually, it was very good that the principal posted a open letter to the IMF explaining all the reasons why this loan is invalid. But I think this argument, and you provided it just now in the presentation, has to be included as well. The new generation is not going to pay back that loan. It's a void loan. So that was my response to that. I've been trying to get a hold of some of the next speakers, which I was not able to do. So both speakers are from Uganda. How the hell is Uganda going to have a startup business if internet is not functioning? David. I mean, that's crazy. How do they think that Uganda is going to build up sustainable economy if there is no internet? For any new business, you need internet. And we constantly see when we have guests from Uganda, we have problems with connecting to them. So the NRM are just totally unbelievable when they really think that any new business can grow with this bad internet.
That's what you get for 35 years of bankrupt leadership. Nico, I think we have Grace, Comrade Grace, available and ready to take on the next moderation slot. We've got quite a few hands, and so maybe we should invite her to take on the next hour or so.
Yes, okay. So then I will tell Grace that I will talk to her privately about some of the next guests if they come available.
Thank you so much. Comrade Grace, you should be able to unmute yourself. Can you hear us? Let's just make sure we have a... Comrade Grace, you should be able to unmute yourself. Hello, Comrade Grace, can you hear us? Okay, whilst Comrade Grace is getting herself unmuted and sorted out, Nico, did you want to take a few more hands?
Yeah, so maybe before we take another hand, maybe I can show another clip from the demonstration of this morning. And by the way, I would be really interested to see some clips from your demonstration in Cornwall, if you have any. So let me try to share my screen. I think I'm getting better now. Yes, you are screen sharing. Which part of my screen do you see at this moment, David?
We see the video.
Okay, great. Then I'm going to...
Comrade Nico, is there any voice narration that we should be listening out? Maybe if there's nothing, why don't you tell us and tell the people who are watching what exactly was happening here and how they can carry out similar protests where they are?
Okay, the volume was not high enough?
No, we couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear the volume.
Okay, so okay, yeah. So let me shortly explain what we were doing. So these are our. So you can see this, right? So I'll just go quickly forward.
Yes, yeah.
This is the big banner that we had that lists all the political Angola prisoners, and obviously it shows Nubian League and Magic. And I can explain here the role that the power. And I'll try later if I can get the sound to work. So you can see from this is that basically to hold a demonstration, you need two guys and having up a banner, and one guy filming, and one guy with a microphone. So that's four. And if you're less, you can even improvise. So I would call upon all Ugandans try to do these pop-up demonstrations. We were there only for 20 minutes, and then I left for this demonstration, and the other guys went to their work, because we also need to work. So that's how we did this small demonstration. I also know that comrades of ours did a demonstration in Norway. I'm asking at this moment how that demonstration went. And yeah, curious about your demonstration in Cornwall, David. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Comrade. Thank you so much, Comrade Nico. Yes, the demonstration in Cornwall was huge. Not only did Uganda represent, but we had demonstrators from right across different parts of the world, including Tigray, and people fighting for all sorts of causes, including Myanmar, right here in Cornwall, protesting against the G7 and the funding of dictators right across the world. So it was good to hear from one of our colleagues from Zambia. Apologies if there's a bit of noise in the background. I've had to change location. My apologies to everyone. But yes, we're hoping to get footage of the protest so that we can share it. But those of you who missed the earlier footage, we were live, can find us on all social media handles on Twitter and on Facebook by following @StandUpUganda, so that you can see what your comrades in the UK have done, representing your voice and letting the people know that Uganda is bleeding. I think we've been joined by Comrade Grace Chiboneka, who is ready, hopefully, very shortly to take over the moderation of the next session. Comrade Grace, we can hear you and we can definitely see you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much. So, Comrade Grace, welcome to this G7 online protest. I'm going to mute myself because it's getting a bit noisy where I am. Please, could you share with everyone what's on your mind and proceed to invite speakers to use their 5 minutes. Over to you.
Oh, thank you for having me, for inviting me to participate in this event and moderate this session. I'm Grace Chiboneka. I'm a resident in Washington State in the United States. I welcome everyone that's found time to be part of this. I just need to remind everybody that this event, the demonstration, online demonstration, happens weekly every Saturday. So for me, it's a nice thing to start my Saturday. For others, it might be an hour in the afternoon or 30 minutes in the evening. But like our lead organizer, David, says, that this is an easier way of us getting engaged by simply joining a demonstration that's in our purse or in our pocket. So let's make it easy and not overthink it. I've heard from several earlier guest speakers providing different submissions, and I picked out a few things. I think there's a gentleman that mentioned a key important aspect of mobilizing to continue to sustain this struggle. So this is our online demonstration is one way we can accomplish that. And so we need to push the issues through our voices and speak up while we are in countries that allow us to utilize our voice. So let's not undermine or underestimate that effort. I also heard from our leader, the SG. I hear often people ask, you know, what's next? What do we do? Some of that we have to figure out ourselves, but we know that on January 14th, we were the victors. We actually, our young party, the young population made a determination of electing, of going in a different direction. But as with any heavy-handed dictatorship that's been in power for this long, 35 years, and for Museveni's sake, actually, it's been longer because he's participated in other governments before he ascended onto the presidential throne. And now he has become an impositor completely. And so we are still in the struggle, but I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a lot for us to speak about and be proud and as accomplishments. We have been able to develop a grassroots party, a party that represents the majority of Ugandans who are young people. And so I think I noticed someone else pointed out that in fact, I think it's a quote I had from the previous leader of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, who said that our future depends on what we make it. So as long as we are clear, we have made a determination of that future is for the young people, which young people want a different direction. They like to be free. They like to express themselves. They like to associate with democracies and democratic principles. That is what is going to define their future, to bring about the development and socio-economic development they yearn for. So as we stand here in this demonstration, we need to put the world on notice, as well as hold those that purport to be the sponsors of democracy, to hold them accountable, to call them out, to say that when my president, Joe Biden, leaves the United States and goes to the G7 and is charting, getting the democracies together, the world democracies, that has to have meaning and should not be only hold meaning to the white population, the powerful, but to the least of these, the people in our villages, the families that we come from, the families that are going without health care, the families that are having their young people maimed, the families that have no hope, the families that have people dying of COVID, while those resources that have been given in their name are being swindled by those that are powerful in our country, Uganda. So we should really add meaning to what we say, to what we hear people say, and stand up to critique and say, that's not the direction. You don't speak for me. That's not my value. And that's not the direction we want to go. I had also had a small clip, and I don't want people to think that by pointing this out, I'm putting someone down. But words hold meaning, and we should be also judging people and their intentions by both what they say and what they do. And this goes to the clip I saw of General Katumba Wamala. In that clip, he seemed to be a lazy, laid back, maybe he may have been forced to say what he said, and a lot of you may have seen. But this is when he had a reflector jacket, and he kind of was somehow joking. I don't know, that Uganda is not like Somalia, Uganda is not like Libya. Okay, now I'm talking to my people. No, go talk to your sisters.
No, I want to work her favorite drive.
Okay, go talk to your sisters. Now I'm negotiating with my 4-year-old. So, but I need you to.
Please help me. She won't get it.
That's absolutely fine, Comrade Grace.
So your sisters can help you. So because I prepare her and she knows I have to talk to my people power friends, but she still comes and bothers me. Anyway, here we are. But she knows the freedom song. That's good, and she recognizes that this is important. But my point was that General Katumba, and when we speak, we have to differentiate. I am not attacking the person, but I'm really criticizing. I'm bothered by how, what they say and what that reflects of their values. So when someone says, this is not like Uganda is not like Somalia, it's not like jokingly, it's not like Sudan, it's not like Libya, you are not going to come here and disturb the peace we have built, the Uganda we have developed. So it's like he sees in his mind or in his expression, he says to Ugandans, he says we coming to disturb their peace. It's not about us as Ugandans, but it's them versus us. And that really bothered me a lot. And so unfortunately, he has had to be a victim of the circumstances that he's been fighting so hard to protect, unfortunately in a very, very harsh manner. And so that's my encouragement, that we have been beaten so down to be numb that we don't sometimes even recognize when things are being done to us, to say, stop, this is not okay. So this is our moment. We have started, we've moved miles already. We have to keep holding people accountable. Words and action matter. So I do appreciate you giving me an opportunity to be part of this discussion, and for everybody who's found time to join. And so I think I have several speakers that I need to work with. I'm not sure if they are on. And then we also
one
have
question in the meantime, Madam Grace, because I'm trying to have Matthias and Puga to join, and there is an iPhone Matthias, so I would like to iPhone Matthias to identify himself. Okay. I suppose it's a him, and if it's Matthias and Puga, then we're lucky.
Okay. Did you unmute? Comrade Professor, did you unmute the person that you're trying to call?
Not yet. I'm trying to search for him.
It doesn't look like they've connected to audio, this iPhone Matthias. So if that's you, Honorable, please can you use the option to connect to audio? Zoom is a bit long-winded. Just look for the option on your phone to connect to audio, and you'll be able to connect into us and speak. Maybe we go with the hands. There are quite a few hands up, and we can get people to make their submissions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and one thing about the interview with Matthias, I want to request the people. So Milton Alamadi is going to be doing the interview, and if they have any questions, to put them in the chat room, and then Madam Grace can select questions from the chat room. Please put your questions in the chat room for Matthias and Puga. Thank you.
Okay. So do we have any hands? I see Tumusime Dina something. Sorry, I didn't pronounce your first name, Dina Vance. Or can you please unmute? So let's see. Tumusime, you have 5 minutes, please.
Thanks for the opportunity. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. Dina, here in Saudi Arabia. My point of view, I wanted to give some light on the question my brother asked about the opposition leader, why our president chose him. So in the speech of our president, he said, we need to use each and every opportunity so that we can make sure we expose the dictator in all ways. So with those, our comrades going to the parliament, either as opposition leaders or as MPs, we are getting a chance to know what is going inside. So it's better you attack a person in both sides, outside and inside. So if we have our comrades inside the parliament of Uganda, it's better for us to know where the dictator is getting funded from, what is he planning to do. So I think that one can't be an issue to disturb us more. Our president is planning everything well. Thanks.
My sister said that I can't wear my white sandals.
No, you go talk to your sisters.
Mommy, I planted sandals and Also, I go out to the living room, and also another thing to shake her head, and also to that mean I can't
I think we have another freedom fighter joining us very soon, who's very determined to make her voice heard. I just want to thank the person who submitted earlier, and thank you for trying to explain that we need to use all options to fight this battle. So whether political, whether legal, whether social, lobbying, everything should be thrown at this, and we need to commit ourselves. Thank you so much for your submission. Can I invite the next person, and then I'll hand over back to you, Comrade Grace. King Assad, please can you unmute yourself and tell us where you're calling in from and share with us what's on your mind. Your 5 minutes start now.
Okay. Can you hear me? Is my voice clear? Can you guys hear me?
Could you speak up a bit louder?
Okay. Is it, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I go by King Assad. I prefer to maintain my name anonymous for the time being. I'm based in Canada at the moment, and I've been following the situation going on in Uganda, and we also I'm one of the team who's behind the account NUP Frontline on Twitter. So we keep fighting in all means in order to raise our voice. I would like to thank Dr. Nick Professor. We have Milton on here too, who does very good analysis in terms of political issues. When we were looking at the struggle, I would first to try to explain what I do on a daily basis. I'm a data analyst. My job, my previous job, I guess, before I joined the struggle, was to analyze the data and not just to look at the situation as what's going on in Uganda, but how does Museveni and his like regime, how they operate, and and the way they control the power within the people. And we had been able to uncover so many things that are related to the struggle. And one of the issues I would like to raise, or actually, let me see the points I'd written at the down here. I think somebody by name Mike iPhone had mentioned that question, which I would like to make sure that we focus on that point, which is to finding different ways in order to continue raising the voice, in order to bring the morale into the people. And one of the solutions that we had come up with was endorsement from the leaders. So from let's say from the president himself, from the NUP leaders, to actually endorse some of all of these like activities that we do, whether it's online, whether it's on Twitter. So because they have the largest audience, they're capable of raising the voice in an instant, and that would actually even be able to add more fuel onto even those who are like not feel like discouraged. So for example, in terms of like Twitter, we have been very, very active, but we're still lacking the people to be part of the team. For example, we have we have a team that does tweeting every day, 3 times a day. And at any given time, you only find about average 100 to 200 people. There is more Ugandans online at any given time, but the fact that we do not have that endorsement from the leadership, it ends up being combined into small teams. One person is there, and this makes it look like actually I think that's even where Museveni wants, whereby we are in like working in small groups, whereby we are actually limited in terms of like sharing information. So I would like to have that message be sent to the leader or the NUP leaders, example, like Matthias Impuga, who actually had run a successful demonstration campaign back when he was working with Dr. Besigye. So those sort of campaigns that need to bring up the attention from the very top to the very bottom, because the people at the bottom are eagerly waiting to do whatever that needs to be done. However, if we do not have the ability to have the endorsement from
this message is for anyone in the UK that doesn't have.
What else? I'm trying to use my 5 minutes as fast as I can. And then the other way we can actually look into it is to use entertainment, because in Uganda, before even the election, people loved entertainment. They still love entertainment. So how can we use such a power that we already have the voice, whether it's from a comedy point of view, whether it's from a music point of view? How can we use such power that we already have? And those already the people who have as many followers, who are already part of the struggle, to join in a different ways that are very creative, to be able to raise the voice and keep the fight going. Otherwise, if we continue in the way that we're going, it actually continues to discourage people, because less and less people you're seeing them online. But if we start finding ways we can organize to call upon like everybody to join, it would actually be much more bring much more interest.
So, comrade, would you please wind up?
Yeah, and the other question, the other point I was going to bring up was towards Dr. Nico, or Professor Nico, was we had previously mentioned about the connection between EU, the G7, and also I think was under the ICC. And this is like the reason why Museveni has been able to retain the power, because of his connections within those organizations. And we've been raising that voice for almost 2 months.
So comrade, your 5 minutes is up.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, no worries. Yeah. Thank you.
But thank you so much for those great ideas that you've pointed out. How can we augment our reach? How can we leverage those that have a deeper followers, especially with maybe the secretariat, the principal, and others, and also be creative around galvanizing different sectors of our population through comedy, music, and stuff like that. So those are really good, well thought out suggestions that we can keep building on as we move forward. Thank you so much. We appreciate your input. So at this time, I would like to recognize one of our guest speakers. We have Attorney Robert Amsterdam. I saw that he joined. I would like to see if we can unmute him. Robert, are you able to unmute yourself so we can give you a platform to address?
I think I believe I
Yes,
have.
thank you. Great. Good to see you. Thank you for finding time to join us. This is the G7 online and physical demonstration that you gracefully accepted to be part. And we appreciate that every time we call on you, you find time to give us your thoughts and a piece of encouragement and advice as needed. So I would like to give you maybe 10 minutes to address us. If you can briefly introduce yourself for the audience who may not be familiar with you, as well as help us focus how this event is important and how we can best connect our message to this G7 leadership.
Well, my name's Robert Amsterdam, and I'm very proud to be a good friend and occasional lawyer to Mr. Bobby Wine, and first worked for Bobby when he was illegally arrested and tortured in Arua, and became very committed to him and his cause since that time. And we were, you know, I think it's important to note, we were successful at having a number of those people who tortured him banned from entry into the United States. And now they are subject to what's called the Magnitsky List, people who are engaged in human rights abuses. And I think the fact that that precedent has been set with respect to Uganda should bar Uganda from receiving military equipment. And I don't think that's happened yet, but that's a very important aspect in terms of the G7. What the G7 need to understand more than anything else is that Museveni is not a pillar of stability in Africa. He is a pillar of instability, because outside of the horror, the terror, the murders, the kidnappings, and the gruesome crimes of violence against his own people, the Museveni government has been an extortionate rapist of the neighbors of Uganda. It is documented with respect to what this government did in South Sudan, what this government did in the DRC, what this government continues to do against its neighbors and its own people. And this idea that somehow is within the G7 that this government provides stability is absolutely wrong. And like so much about what the West does in Africa, we are dealing with a fundamental misunderstanding. And the other fact is that the West, if a leader is Black in Africa now, that's about all they have to pass in order to obtain donor money and all the money they need to condemn their own people to the horrific conditions we're seeing in Uganda. And I have written and said many times that Uganda is a case of internal colonialism. Museveni and his son and the son's torture squad that engage in the persecution and beatings of Ugandans and murder of Ugandans, these people believe that Uganda exists as a colony to be exploited for them. And I will tell you that thank God we have people like Helen Epstein, Jeffrey Smith, this new lawyer from the States, Bruce, who has done some great work in getting out the message to the West, to the US, to the Black Caucus in Congress, that this behavior is antithetical to any idea of Western values. And I think the other point to make is that the silence of the African Union is completely unacceptable. The world stands united in condemning China in terms of the Uyghurs, and I take nothing away from that titanic struggle, but I would say to you that the silence with respect to Uganda and the silence of the African Union to say anything with respect about Museveni or a lot of the goings on in East Africa is unforgivable. And one of the important things Ugandans need to do is unite with opposition groups in other African states. I work for the opposition in Tanzania and Cameroon, and unite with those opposition groups to get the largest voice possible in the world community to educate the world about what's happening in Africa, what's being allowed to happen in Africa. And now that Europe has adopted the Magnitsky Act, we need to make sure that Ugandans in all of these countries push for a resolution before the European Parliament to condemn the leaders of Uganda, place them on the Magnitsky list, and ensure that they stop operating with impunity. And that's something that has to be done because it's clear Ugandans can't breathe. And one of the things we should be doing is talking to American activists like Black Lives Matter. We've already had a statement from a major American organization, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, supporting the opposition in Uganda against the tyranny of Museveni. And, you know, I was horrified that 21 African heads of state attended this complete farce of an inauguration that occurred weeks ago in Kampala. I think that every leader who attended should be condemned for attempting to legitimize that farce. So I wanted to just say how proud I am to be part of this group. I think it's incredibly important that Ugandans in the diaspora set up 24/7 protests in front of the Ugandan embassies and make sure that Ugandan voices in the diaspora are heard loud and clear in terms of ending this brutal dictatorship. So thank you very, very much for allowing me to have a few minutes here to speak.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us your thoughts and also providing us with some additional direction, which I think helps us reflect on what else we can do, what we haven't done, what can we do better. I heard you mention that we can also capitalize on our strength as Africans and build those coalitions across countries to put more pressure and have a larger voice and push for.
And Grace, we have the most charismatic leader in Africa. Bobi Wine is the leader of Africa's youth, which constitutes 70% of the demographics of the continent. We have a great leader. We have a heroic leader in Bobi Wine. As somebody I'm so proud to call a personal friend. And I think we have to pray for him and just pray that he becomes president and does what I know he wants to do for the people of Uganda.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So let me see if we have a couple of questions at least before we get in to our next invited guests. But we have, I think I would like to have Milton, Professor Milton Ali-Mahdi. You have a question for Robert. Would you please unmute and ask the question? And then after that, I would ask Nico, Professor Nico, to also ask a clarifying question. So let's get through to Milton first.
All right. Thank you, first of all, for your wonderful job co-hosting rather. A question to Robert Amsterdam. First of all, thanks for that wonderful presentation and summary of the state of affairs. And I agree with you in terms of getting more US activists involved. And I think I can actually get some people from Black Lives Matter for the next protest. My question to you, the Alien Torts Act, is that a law that would be helpful in some of the cases in Uganda? in terms of trying to associate American individuals or entities with some of the crimes committed by General Museveni in Uganda?
To be very frank, it's an excellent question, but I think that the Alien Tort Act would be much less effective than if we had anyone who is an American citizen picked up by any of the drones, because under some new US law, we might be able to then declare Museveni part of a terrorist organization. So if any of the people who have been illegally arrested, which includes people that I consider brothers and sisters of mine, if any of those people have American citizenship, that would be the gateway to launching some very inventive litigation under some new anti-terrorism laws that have been put into the United States. We have experience with the Alien Tort Claims Act, and the problem is it's been greatly restricted by some recent judicial decisions, and it takes so much time to get these cases heard that I wouldn't call it a particularly fruitful avenue.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And let me request Professor Nico, you had a question you thought could be clarified. Would you please ask that clarifying question?
Yes, Robert, thank you for your contribution. So you mentioned it's important that the European Parliament takes on a firm stance against the dictator. Now, in February, they already had quite a firm resolution, and I'm not totally sure, but even Magnitsky sanctions might have been mentioned in that in that resolution. So could you please clarify your what they should be adding to their position? And then secondly, of all the parliaments in the West, the European Parliament is one of the weakest. So MPs in European Parliament have been telling me that we need to get to Paris and Berlin because they are the most important leaders. How can we achieve that?
Well, look, I've been to Berlin with Bobby, and one of my staff has been to Paris with him. And I think he was a big hit in both capitals. I think that the EU now has the mechanism to engage directly with individuals. And what the EU would need would be to identify the individuals who should be added to the Magnitsky Act with enough detail so that the actual procedures could be followed. And, you know, in terms of the Bundestag in Germany, I think that, I don't know if you saw the reports that the German army were talking to the Ugandan army just a couple of weeks ago. But there's a lot of work that has to be done in Berlin to educate our German friends about what's really been happening. And, you know, that's going to take a lot of effort on behalf of the NUP and Ugandans in the German diaspora to speak to their representatives in the political parties and put some pressure on the army and develop some pressure in terms of sanctions relative to Uganda.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. I have we have several people with hands up, but I think that we will not take all these now because we have another speaker waiting,
Sure.
And then we'll get back to these questions. So I do have a specific question though for clarification. One of the individuals from the audience wants to hear you tell us a little bit more about what is encompassed in the Harare Declaration. I think you mentioned something to that effect. What is, can you tell us a little bit
Well,
more?
in fact, that's a brilliant question because I didn't mention it today, but I mentioned it in a prior discussion. The Harare Declaration, and I want to thank this person for this question because I should have mentioned it earlier. The Harare Declaration is a declaration signed by Uganda and other countries in the Commonwealth that commit Uganda to freedom of expression, freedom of the press, and many democratic principles that Museveni is derogated from. We should work hard to expel Uganda from the Commonwealth. This is an attainable goal, and it should be a focus of all of us in the diaspora to present a brief to the Commonwealth and get Uganda suspended, because that would delegitimize the junta in Kampala, and it would do a tremendous amount to force African institutions like the AU to do something. So thank you for the mention of the Harare Declaration. I think it's a very important issue that we should be pushing.
Thank you for providing us with those that insights and for your time. I would like to, I would have had a follow-up question on that, but I think in the interest of time, I would want to invite another guest, and then then we'll be able to get back to some questions here from the audience. I think, Robert, if you have time, you're welcome to stay on and then listen to our next invited speaker. I do, Professor Nico, I want to invite MP Silvana Simmons. Is she ready?
Okay, let's ask her if she can be unmuted. Now, one of us has to hit that button to unmute her.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for her.
I am unmuted now.
Yes, thank you so much. What a wonderful way of meeting, and thank you for gracing us with your time. So
thank you so much for the invitation.
You are so welcome, and we really appreciate you carving out time to be with us. This is a community of Ugandans in the diaspora. We do have some that are in Uganda. We've been here for 2 hours so far. I think we are closing to our third hour, ending our third hour, which you are presenting. So we appreciate. To the audience, we are so glad and appreciate the presence of Ms. Silvana Simmons. She's an MP in the Dutch Parliament. I would like to invite you to give us a brief background of yourself, and then we can get on from there. Thank you so much. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chibunika. Well, I started my political career only recently, about 5 years ago, after a very successful career in media and entertainment as a television host, DJ, dancer, actress, and among those spheres. I was prompted to get into politics because I reached a point where I could no longer deal with the institutional unfairness, discrimination, and racism in my country, the Netherlands, a country known very much as the most tolerant and accepting, but I'm here to tell you that I'm afraid is a farce. It's only a skin deep image that does not have its effect truly and well within Dutch society. I've entered Parliament last March as the first Black party leader, and of course also the first female Black party leader in this country, as I'm a descendant of a former Dutch colony, Suriname, located in South America. It used to be known as Dutch Guyana. And I came here as a young child lived here all my life. And I think this is the briefest I can give you about my career so far and how I ended up in the Dutch parliament after I founded my party in the end of 2016, December. We also hold a seat in the municipality of Amsterdam, and we are ready to enter local elections next year with at least, I hope, 4 to 5 cities in the Netherlands. I have had the pleasure of meeting Lina Zedriga a few weeks ago online, and have heard from her about the current situation in Uganda, as I have to tell you that we do not get a lot of news about the Ugandan situation here in the Netherlands. If I hadn't followed Mr. Bobi Wine on Twitter, I would not have known anything. This is just to give you an idea. And also in regards to the previous speaker, Mr. Amsterdam, who I would like to thank so much for his contribution, I think that one of the other important things is to get this in the media across Europe. So it will make at least my work as an MP a little bit easier to get the attention for everything that's going on in Uganda, and also question the authorities right now in the part that they are playing as Dutch government.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that brief and informative background. I did not quite get the name of your party, the one you founded. It's the Black Dutch Party?
It's called Bijeen, which means together. As you can see, I have one of our election posters in the back. This is the Dutch way of writing it, Bijeen, and it translates easier to come together. I started my party under a different name. It used to be Article 1. After the first article of our constitution, I was legally forced to change the name, but I think that Bijeen, coming together, really represents our ideals very well, because it is our aim to get rid, obviously, of any type of discrimination. We are a party of emancipators. So our aim is to bring everybody together.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that additional information and insight in your political background. And I wanted to find out, we are here to really express the injustices and the oppression, repressive 35-year regime that actually goes back. The individual Museveni has participated in governments prior to him securing the presidency for more than 40 years. And we are at a crossroad where we've had some gains as a young party. And like Robert mentioned, our party represents the majority of Ugandans who are youth, as well as a reflection of the population in Africa, which is a young continent, really. So how would you guide us in addressing our issues to the G7, which is why we are demonstrating today, to put more attention on the plight and the issues that pertain to Uganda at the forefront of these so-called democracies?
Well, I can only start by saying that I support every word spoken by Mr. Robert Amsterdam, because I think that one of the more important messages that he's trying to give us is to unite. I think this is something that we should not underestimate. And also, as he said, uniting not only within Uganda with different groups of activists, but also outside of the country, in the neighboring countries, and gets the story across to global media, global networks. What I found very powerful for Bijeen is we are also, just like NUP, a young party struggling for the right type of attention, because attention is never far, but it's about getting the right type of attention, is uniting with different groups. We also always invite and explain to people that the struggle for the climate is the same struggle. It's a struggle for justice. When it comes to feminist rights, it's the same struggle. It's the struggle for justice. So uniting different groups is very, very important, we have found, in getting the masses, which will eventually hopefully lead to getting that attention of the issues at hand. Now, I think that you are already making such big steps in not only getting the story heard, but uniting. I can see there's a lot of people present here today. You have already found your way to addressing the G7, for instance. So I think that one of the most important things is to keep going. And like you said, there's a window now, and it's very important to make sure it's open and it stays open.
Great. So I would like to, with those words, I would like to find out if there are people who have specific questions for you. We do have our demonstration also relies on people bringing in thoughts and having space where they can express. But I would like to invite a few questions where we can hear from the audience that may have specific questions for you. Comrade Nico, yes. Are you able to take on this question period with MP Silvana?
Yes, sure, Madam Grace. Thank you very much for doing this interview. Now, there are many hands up, and I'm not even sure if probably those hands are not all for Silvana Simons. So I would like anyone that has a question for Silvana Simons and to put it in the chat. And as I speak, Michael Kirkpatrick has the first question. So other people also add your question to the chat, and I'm going to ask to unmute Michael Kirkpatrick. Michael, please ask Silvana your question.
Thank you very much, Nico. Silvana, thank you. It's always a pleasure to meet somebody new who is aware of all these issues and who has a professional role in a government that's listening to Ugandans. This question, I'm hoping Robert Amsterdam is still with us here. I didn't get a chance to look around the room, but also for Silvana, since you are a member of the Dutch Parliament and you know the workings of politics and you know the workings of the European Union, my question specifically is about the International Criminal Court. Somebody is running interference with the International Criminal Court because for years there have been these atrocities and these issues documented by people like the Human Rights Watch, by Amnesty International, and they've been submitted to the ICC. We know about atrocities that have been prosecuted by the ICC regarding the Lord's Resistance Army and Joseph Kony. They have been told that Museveni is also responsible for atrocities and also for passing off atrocities that his army, the UDPF, has committed and passing them off as LRA atrocities. So the ICC is aware of these, of Museveni and what he's doing. Somebody's running interference. Who do you think is running interference? And question two is, what can we do to put pressure on the ICC?
Wow, thank you so much for these questions. Let me start by saying that I have a very depressing answer for you because your guess is as good as mine. I really could not tell you. It's obvious that what you're stating is true, but as to the reasons why, I could not tell you. I am actually appalled and surprised by answers given to our Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs when asked about Dutch financial support and also material support to Uganda government being used for all the wrong reasons, being used by the government to suppress opposition. And the answers puzzle me just the way they would puzzle you. So I don't know. The pressure that we can keep putting is, I have to tell you, my instruments as an MP are limited because I can ask questions and then I can ask questions again. And if need be, I will ask questions every single day. But I also need the same force that you are looking for in uniting different activist groups and different, is the same force I need to be able to get them to really answer those questions. Now, even though I do not know the answer, I'm prejudiced enough to say that the answer is always money. So we need to find out what money, who's it from, where's it coming from, and what is it being spent on, and how is it being allocated. So I'm sorry to say that I do not have a specific answer, but I think that this is the question we need to keep asking, and until we find out. About ICC, by the way, it's located in the Netherlands. It's located in The Hague, the same city as our parliament, and it's the same city I work in every day. But for obvious reasons, Dutch parliament, Dutch government is not connected to the ICC. This is healthy, in a healthy democracy, but at the same time, it's also the perfect excuse for the answer being, this is not our business. We don't know. We have nothing to do with that. They are an independent institution. So I'm very much willing to look into that further and keep asking those questions. But something that's very important for me as an MP to be able to do my work is I need to be informed. So I'm always asking everybody, inform me, send me anything you know. I might not always be able to respond or engage in conversation or meetings, but I will use this information to keep the pressure going.
Okay, thank you. And my question was more of a rhetorical question for the benefit of everybody in this room and watching on Facebook, so that they know that there is a global official institution that can address these things and is aware of them. And we've already proven that online pressure through Twitter or whatever means is effective, but also we've seen demonstrations in Washington, D.C. interrupt some of the public relations firms that have backed off representing the Ugandan regime. We've seen demonstrations in London. We've seen demonstrations in the Netherlands on the ground. And of course, today we see a demonstration in Cornwall with the G7. So I put the proposal out there for our folks in the Netherlands. You know where the building is, you know where the ICC is. That may be one of our next, strong demonstrations. The group that went to Rotterdam for the music competition, maybe that same group just pops up in front of the ICC on a busy day when maybe we know there's
coming to The Hague and protesting in front of the Tweede Kamer, which is our parliament building, is really always a good idea, especially, and this might be just very simple, especially if you make sure that you write every single MP, email them on the daily, and make sure they come out and accept your petition. By then, they usually feel obligated to investigate, because I'm pretty sure that a lot of my colleagues in chamber do not know. They simply do not know. So another thing, and it might sound silly or petty, is when it came to the Palestinian cause, all I did was wear a pin into Parliament, and this caused a lot of commotion. So these are simple ways in which we can get the attention, but we need to get media. This is the only way it works.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Silvana. So I have a final question. It connects a little bit to this subject, because obviously, because I'm Dutch myself, I know that you're quite experienced with activism as well. So the National Unity Platform is also going into an activist phase after the dictator stole the elections. So from your experience with activism, what recommendations do you have for us?
Well, one of the things we found very powerful in the Netherlands, but also internationally, is simultaneous action. So when there is a demonstration in one city, let there be demonstrations in another city at the same time. So this is also, I think, what Mr. Amsterdam was talking about, and I'm sorry, even the speaker before that, who gave great ideas about incorporating all kinds of media and entertainment. Radio, I know, on the African continent is very important and very powerful. So any given instrument, any given tool should be used, but we need to organize. So for instance, from my point of view as a Dutch MP, I would like to hear from Ugandans in the diaspora here in the Netherlands and see how we can combine forces, because we are also, I dare say, affiliated with Black Lives Matter. With we have the Black Archives and you see here in the Netherlands. So it really comes down to combining the forces and make sure that whatever action is being taken in location A, it's also happening in location B. And we live in a world right now where it's relatively easy to be connected, stay connected, and make sure that when there's a demonstration in France, let there also be one in the Netherlands, let there also be one in the UK and every other country where the diaspora has landed, because that's the type of force we need, because that's what's going to help us to get media attention globally, and that's what's going to help us to get to raise political pressure and hopefully move from there.
Yes, that is very good recommendation. So I find it very nice that you as a politician have come to this Zoom call and this demonstration, because many politicians are a bit hesitant. They are like, oh, let me stay neutral. Let me not do this.
Well, I think that is the problem. And I think that this is also what connects BIJ and NUP, is that we are not scared about nothing. And we cannot afford to be scared, because we have serious rights to defend. I will always be present when it comes down to fighting oppression, fighting injustice, and especially I love, even though it's a sad term, but I'm very happy that today I have been introduced to the word internal colonialism. Because fighting colonialism and decolonizing every single part of our society on a global scale, obviously for me starting in the Netherlands, this is my partner's mission. So I will be glad to help, support, and join whenever, wherever. And I know that Professor Nico and I, we are both in the Netherlands, and we have already agreed that this summer we will spend some time on talking to each other about how we can join forces, combine forces and knowledge in order to get the Ugandan case forward.
Okay, thank you so much, Silvana, and I'm sure we'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much. Can I just say one last word as I leave again, because I have other obligations as well, but I just want to say that even being in this room today gives me a lot of positive energy and a lot of hope that in due time, because as activists, we must never expect the solution to come quick. So we always need to understand that our struggles are the ones that are going to take the most time, but knowing that we are not alone and that we are globally all fighting for justice, it really warms my heart, and I wish you all the strength and wisdom you need.
In Uganda, we say "a luta continua."
A luta?
A luta continua. The struggle continues. Thank you so much.
Comrade Nico, I think Comrade Milton had something to add. Milton, over to you.
Yeah, it's not so much a question, but first I want to thank MP Silvana for her presentation. I wanted to follow up on the question that Michael asked, and it's an important question that I think we resuscitate, and here's why it's important. He asked about somebody blocking for Museveni at the ICC. It is completely true. There's a very interesting article in the Wall Street Journal. I'm trying to look it up. If I find it while I'm still on, I will share it. It was from June the 8th, 2006. And that article was very interesting. It was an interview with some of the prosecutors at the ICC. And those prosecutors said they were stunned when the chief prosecutor, Luis Moreno Ocampo, posed together for a photograph with General Museveni. Museveni had just convinced the ICC to pursue the Joseph Kony matter, and the ICC agreed. And then Museveni posed with Ocampo, the prosecutor, for a PR photograph. And the other prosecutors said they were stunned and they were aghast. They didn't want that to happen. And why was that? They said because the ICJ, International Court of Justice, had already awarded Congo damages and reparations for the war crimes committed by Uganda's army in the Congo. And the ICC was about to launch its own investigation of those same crimes, meaning Museveni could possibly be indicted. So why was Ocampo posing together with him for a photograph? And then the article had one other very interesting item. The article said Museveni himself called Kofi Annan, who at the time was the Secretary General of the UN, and asked him to block the criminal investigation. And Kofi Annan told him, I do not have the powers to block the investigation. But it seems that since Museveni was never indicted, somebody who had the powers blocked those investigations. And I think the usual suspects, of course, would be the United States or Great Britain. They're the only ones that have the veto power in the UN to block that investigation. So Michael, your question was really on point, and there are actually concrete facts that indeed the investigation was blocked. So I just wanted to add that to Michael's question.
And I'm showing the picture right here, Milton.
Yes, there you go, Ocampo with Museveni. And if I find the Wall Street Journal article about what I just described, I will share it also.
Thank you so much for that observation.
Thank you.
David, is there anything else, or otherwise I will try to find our next moderator. That is Patricia Namyalo. Don't know if she's already on.
Yes, Nico, we have a few tweets that we'd like to share with comrades before we move on to Patricia. And first of all, I'd like to say again, as everyone has expressed, thank you to Honorable Silvana for taking the time to grace us with her presence and giving us really good tips about engaging more and engaging in depth with some of these political leaders. Thank you so much to her, and obviously to you, Nico, for managing to arrange for her to address us here on Zoom and on Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, this wouldn't be an online protest without us sending out tweets. We always meet here every Saturday from 2 to 4 p.m. And today, because it's a G7 special session, we are doing an extended session. And what we would like you to do is join us and get involved in Twitter bombing. If you haven't signed up to Twitter, please can you take the next few minutes to get yourselves signed up. Those of you who are on Twitter, can I ask you to follow our handle just so that we can take this process very nicely and swiftly. Please head over to twitter.com or your Twitter app and follow @StandUpUganda. That is the official handle of the team that organizes these protests. And we have a number of preset tweets that we would like you guys to get involved in. Thank you so much for all those of you who are following us on Facebook. For those of you who are following us on the chat, we will be sharing the screen so that you can see the tweets we would like you to send out today. So it would be good to see the numbers of people following @StandUpUganda increasing, because we've got that live here. So please head over to @StandUpUganda. So that is @StandUpUganda on Twitter, and you will see a red cover page with Ditch the Dictator and a fist on the profile page. Okay, I'm just about to head over to the first tweet that we would like you to tweet. And those of you who may have heard, there's been a lot of activity, and there's always very, very big activity around specific topics of interest. Of course, we're talking about G7, we're talking about the IMF funding, we're talking about the billions of dollars that governments are looking to lend Uganda or organizations. We need to put a stop to this. So please, I'm going to share my screen, so that we can get you engaged and involved in this Twitter bombing session, and so that we can get the tweets sent over to the people involved and concerned. So the first tweet I'd like us to share. Sorry, let me just get this shared. Right, so if you're following Stand Up Uganda, you should see a tweet that we have sent to the G7 countries about funding. This is a call, and it's got very key hashtags. We've got SOS, like Comrade Andrew talked about earlier. We're using that as a hashtag. We're using Uganda is bleeding, and we've got this held off to key handles, European Parliament, to Canada, UK in Uganda, and we've got all those tagged in for you. So please, if you're on our handle, we would like to see that number. We've got 14 retweets. Please, can we see that number increase? We would like you to head over to that page and go on and copy that link, retweet it, quote it, love that, give us a share, give us a heart. We want to see that tweet being amplified by the number of people who are on the Zoom and those of you who are following us on Facebook. This is how we have been able to engage directly with Mercury, with the people who are organizing the Mama Africa Awards. This is exactly how we are engaging them. So do not think that what you're doing is insignificant. Please, every retweet, every share, every quote, every comment amplifies the message to the G7. So I'd love to see all of you heading over and getting this tweet. So I've got the link now, and we will share it. Normally, my comrade Michael Kirkpatrick is a lot quicker than me, so I'm not sure if he's already shared it on the Zoom stream. But please, we should have the link available very soon, and we will be able to send it to the Zoom chat, if someone can post it on the Zoom chat, so that we can share that message. So that's the first message that's the first tweet we would like to see. So good to see the numbers. That's 23. There's 128 people on this Zoom chat. I would love to see at least that number moving up to 100. Otherwise, we are not doing ourselves justice. When you hear about action, when you hear about people standing together, we're talking about these small steps. So let's see those hearts and those retweets go up. If you haven't followed at Stand Up Uganda, now is the time to follow Stand Up Uganda, because this is where all the messaging is going to go. Okay, I'm reliably informed that we have had a new tweet come up that has been set up that we would like to get sent through, and that's directly to the IMF about the nearly $1 billion that they're looking to lend Uganda. Okay, here we go. So this is a very new tweet that we have for you with an appropriate video that has been uploaded by our Twitter colleagues. So this tweet that you should be able to see says, at IMF Live, Museveni has weapons of mass destruction working with China and North Korea. Stop funding a murderous regime. We tag at USA Gov, at IMF in EU, World Bank, and a number of other handles. Please head over to at Stand Up Uganda, and that is the tweet we want you, the second tweet we want you to go like, retweet, share, add your comment to it. We cannot have an unaccountable, illegitimate regime getting all this money, because we know where that money is going to be diverted to. So every single retweet, quote, comment, share is going to make a difference. Okay, so it's good to see the numbers going up. Let's get that message. Those of you who are on Facebook, head over to our Twitter and follow at Stand Up Uganda. We need to see those retweets getting close to the number of people. There are hundreds of you watching us on Facebook. Please, please, please head over to at Stand Up Uganda on Twitter, and let's get those tweets amplified. Let's get that message sent out to the world that we are not going to keep quiet. I'm getting a lot of information sent into me so that we can ensure that we've got the latest information out for you. Okay, one more tweet that we have. We've got 3 for you today, but if you would like to retweet and send any additional tweets, do not hesitate to follow us on @StandUpUganda, and you will find our tweets there that you can share. Right, this is the next one we want you to focus on. This is all about the torture, abduction, rape, and murder. Our comrades are languishing in jails and prisons right across the country. We have to stand up. We have to raise our voices. There's so many people we've spoken to today who did not know anything about the atrocities the regime is causing in Uganda. If we do not speak, our comrades will definitely not see the light of day. Ladies and gentlemen, head over to @StandUpUganda, and I'd love to see that tweet amplified just as much as you've amplified the other tweets. Okay, so the message is SOS. That's a key hashtag that we're using. We've learned, and we keep on refining our tactics. Hashtag Uganda is bleeding. That's a big hashtag that we're using. At ICC and International Criminal Court, please watch the BBC documentary highlighting injustices and atrocities in Uganda. Abductions, rape, murder are on the rise since November 2020. Okay? Anyone who watched that documentary will see that all the people who were shot were innocent civilians, standing by, unarmed, shot by soldiers on truck 17, if I'm not mistaken. Let's get those videos out. Let's let the world know that you were doing business with an illegitimate regime, a regime that does not care about its citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to see those tweets, and we need to get into the habit of tweeting. Before I hand over to our next moderator, I would love to remind all of you, make it a point to join us every Saturday from 2 p.m. UK time, which is 4 p.m. Uganda time. We are here sharing our thoughts, sharing our minds, sharing our fears and our concerns. The people in the diaspora are not accepting an illegitimate president. Join us every Saturday, and this is where we are going to keep the fire burning. It is up to you, it's up to me, and it's up to each one of you to make sure that people do not give up hope. We've not given up hope, and we're keeping the fight going. Thank you so much, all those of you who have retweeted, tweeted, and followed us. I would like to hand over back to Nico, who will hopefully introduce our next moderator. Thank you so much. Keep sharing the love. We say 5 tweets a day can keep the dictator away. Let's keep those tweets punchy and focused on the key messages that we're sending. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. There's one, an hour ago, I think it was King Assad, that mentioned his Twitter page, Noob Frontline. King Assad, I tried to look up your Twitter page, but it didn't exist like Noob Frontline or Noob_Frontline. So please type your Twitter handle in the chat so that others can follow. And I will also put some of the diaspora accounts there so they can also get more following. So let's see if our next moderator is available. That is Patricia Namyalo. Have we already unmuted Patricia, David?
We should have just done that.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, hi, Patricia. Welcome to the program, and I'm giving it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I just want to make sure Kakwenza is here with us. I was just chatting with him a few minutes back, but I just want to make sure he's here with us. Can someone check if Kakwenza is on? Or Kakwenza, can you please unmute?
Patricia, we have Kakwenza on, but he hasn't joined with audio. So can I ask Kakwenza, please use the icon on your phone to join with audio. You need to join the call with audio over the internet, and then you'll have the microphone to speak to us. Thank you so much. So you should have an icon on your phone on the left-hand side which says join with over computer or phone audio or something of the sort.
All right, while we wait for Kakwenza, I'm Patricia Namyalo. I'm an independent representative of the people. I dabble as an activist both here in the United States and in Uganda. I've worked on the Ugandan front. with all these amazing activists from FDC, ANT, and DP, among many other parties. And then here in the United States, I'm a labor rights defender and workers' rights defender with Unite Here Local 25. And why are we here today? I've been listening to a lot of different submissions by different speakers, and I just want to highlight some of the things that they talked about. Why are we here? Why the G7 summit protest? Well, one of the reasons is because Ugandan leaders are operating with impunity, and obviously that needs to stop. Secondary, the West is behind Museveni's stay in power, and that also needs to stop. Third, the African Union is silent on the situation in Uganda, and obviously that needs to stop. And fourth, the ICC is not doing its job in Uganda, and that needs to stop. Fifth, there's a lack of unity when it comes to political parties in Uganda, and obviously that needs to change. Without that unity in Uganda, there's over opposition parties, there's not so much that we are going to do to change what's really taking place right now. And then something that we are ignoring is Pan-Africanism. Now the question is, what is Pan-Africanism? So it is the principle of advocacy of the political union of all the indigenous inhabitants of Africa. And so Robert Amsterdam touched on the Black Lives Matter. We need to make sure that we are tapping into that support. These people are more than interested to work with us and help us. Milton Alimadi, I know, is good acquaintances with some of these activists, and probably like one of the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement, and really excellent activist in Ghana, Namata Serungu, Pan-Africanist. This is someone that has really inspired me in more ways than one. She's also big on uniting all these different organizations in Africa to, worldwide, to come together and not just fight for Uganda, but fight for all of Africa. It's very important that we understand that when Africa is free, when all of Africa is free, then obviously, Uganda will be free as well. And then the United States, the European Union, the French, they'll lose their firm grip on the African continent. And so is Kakwenza on with us? I'd like to move on with Kakwenza if he's present.
It looks like we've lost him for now, so if we could take a few hands, and then when he joins in, I'll immediately unmute him. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so before we take those hands, if anyone is familiar with Kakwenza, Kakwenza is the writer of two amazing books. One of the books is a political satire, as he calls it. It is The Greedy Barbarian, very funny book, but it is also very political and very enlightening. If you read this book, you know for sure what it is that we need to do to take the dictator down or ditch the dictator, as per our conversation here with Uganda is Bleeding. And then of course, he's also the writer of Banana Republic, where writing is treasonous. And the reason why this book is named that is because he knew that clearly after writing this book, he'll probably be arrested or tortured, just like when he wrote the first book, The Greedy Barbarians. He was arrested and tortured. Not only was he arrested, he was actually kidnapped right in front of his wife and children. And so if there's anyone that is familiar with Kakwenza's writing, I would specifically like to speak to that person. Has anyone read either one of these books? Do you have any hands by any chance? David?
So we have hands, but we're not sure if they're the people who've spoken up. So if anyone has read the author's books, please just message on the chat and we'll give you the chance to speak. Otherwise, we'll proceed with hands. I think Comrade Kakwenza has joined. I just want to make sure he's able to unmute himself.
Absolutely.
There we go. I think, Comrade Kakwenza, you should be able to unmute yourself. I'll leave you with our moderator. Hello, Comrade Kakwenza, can you hear us? I think we've lost him again. I'm so sorry about that. I think there are issues, connectivity issues in Uganda. So
Yeah. Let's proceed with hands as we wait for our Kakwenza. I'll also try contact.
I think that the Ugandan government knows they can't arrest Kakwenza anymore, so they're just disturbing his internet connection.
By the way, we have Patrick. Patrick, am I able to chat with you on Kakwenza, please? Patrick.
Michael Kirkpatrick, can you hear us? You have been invited to a conversation.
Oh, just invited to a conversation. I'm multitasking here, so like I'm on Twitter, I'm listening to you. Okay.
I'm pretty sure you have read Kakwenza's books, or maybe you can enlighten us. Have you read the books or not?
I have not, but thank you for bringing them to my attention.
Perfect. Please take some time, read those books if you can. Very humorous, but very educational at the same time. He has such an amazing sense of humor, and he's such an excellent activist that has literally inspired me to kind of fill my shoes as an activist by just seeing his work. And then he's writing some more books. I can't tell you what exactly, but he is working on some more books right now as we speak. And for those that would like to support him, you can obviously find him on Facebook. But we are obviously here because the United States is and the European Union, the French, they are funding dictator Museveni. And so there was so many speakers. I know you have given lots of submissions on this, but what should Ugandans be doing right now to ensure that we can put a stop to this money that's coming into the country?
Milton may have, if Milton's still in the room, may have some good ideas as a Ugandan himself. We need to distinguish when we talk about Ugandans. I want to distinguish between the Ugandans who are in Uganda and the Ugandans in the diaspora. That distinction only because those in Uganda, we have to be very sensitive about security and safety for those in Uganda, safety for them and their loved ones, because a lot of the times they will not come after the individuals. They'll come after family members and children. So we want to be very sensitive to those in Uganda. But those in the diaspora who, have the freedom to protest, have the freedom to approach their governments, have the freedom to address their specific representatives, whose job it is to listen to their constituents. That's probably a very foreign concept to Ugandans in Uganda, that the people within their legislatures, they're there to serve the people. The people are not there to serve their legislatures. That is very strong in healthy democracies. So when it comes to money, primarily the one that will help cut off the flow of money, there's the government to government type of monies. So there's things, I guess they refer to it as bilateral support, and that's usually a part of a country's foreign policy. where I know in the US, they will earmark money every year in a budget, that will go to certain countries to support those countries. And, they say it's to help support democracies and healthy governments. That's a bunch of crap, because it's money to buy allegiance, and they say there's no strings attached. We know that's not true. When it comes to money and following the money trail, there's always strings attached. So money that flows from governments that are appropriated and approved by parliaments and congresses, we need to go back to those specific legislative members, whether it be through letters or petitions or showing up or scheduling meetings in their office or their staff members, because a lot of times you may think you're dealing directly with these legislative members, but you're really dealing with their staff. That's their job, is to collate, all these requests and all this information for the elected officials. So, we know that money is going into the pocket of Museveni and his regime, and it's supporting things like, torturing people. It's paying for the electricity in the safe houses. It's paying for transporting in the vehicles to transport people, from the streets to safe houses. It's paying for the weapons. And in many cases, it's not the actual currency and the financial support. There's actually weapons that get shipped there. Uganda, as far as I'm concerned, does not have a weapons factory.
No.
Those weapons come from somewhere. I don't even think any of the neighboring countries have weapons factories. Dare I even say, I'm not even sure the entire continent of Africa has a weapons facility that's pumping out tanks, transport vehicles, armored vehicles, shoulder-to-air missiles. All these weapons are coming from somewhere. And they're primarily coming from America. So we need to cut off that financial support, that weapon support. Other money comes from philanthropic organizations. Now, a lot of these philanthropic organizations are what I call astroturf organizations. They're fake. They may look like they're human rights organizations. They may look like they're charitable organizations. They may even look like they're affiliated with religious institutions. But when you follow the money trail and you follow who the wizard is, behind the curtain, controlling everything, it is the government. They have final say. So you need to be very, very diligent. You need to do your due diligence. You need to do research. You need to talk to people to understand who these institutions are. Believe me, the letters USAID is not a charitable organization.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
That aid is in the name and people call it USAID. Please do not confuse it with a charitable organization that aids oppressed people. That is not their role.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much, Michael. I completely appreciate that. Let's hear from Professor Milton Alimadi. Professor Milton Alimadi works very closely with Kakwenza. In fact, Kakwenza is one of the writers for Black Star News. Professor Milton, can you please talk to us about the two books that Kakwenza wrote? I know, I think I worked in close contact with you when he was arrested the second time, and I know that you did so much to ensure his release. Please talk to us about the first book, and then after that, tell us about the second book, and then what happened after the first and the second book.
All right, thank you, and first of all, welcome to you. You are just a tremendous person. I want to always thank you for the tireless work you do, like many of us, but you've just been exceptional. I thank you for making that documentary, powerful documentary. I hope you maybe share the link again before the end of today.
Absolutely.
If anybody that's not familiar with that documentary. in terms of Kakwenza, this is a very brave young man, you see? And I think the humor is also part of his way of maintaining his sanity. Because to really be arrested at your home in front of your wife and children, to be dragged out almost naked from your home by 12 to 15 heavily armed soldiers, some in civilian and some wearing fatigue as if they're going to war, it can be very debilitating, just psychologically and mentally. You know, forget even the physical torture itself, which of course was horrendous. And he describes it. And I actually have read the second book, Banana Republic, where writing is treason, because that's the one that we excerpted and published on Black Star News. And if anybody didn't get a copy, a time to buy the book, if you put Banana Republic and Black Star News on the search URL, then you can read what we excerpted on blackstarnews.com. And it describes some of the torture that he endured. And why is this? Because he wrote The Greedy Barbarian, this fictional account of an African dictator who has turned the national treasury into his personal and family belonging, family bank account. And the dictator, Museveni, felt that it described him, which, you know, reveals a lot, because he's not the only dictator in Uganda, right? But, you know, Kakwenza being a Uganda, it was obvious, or Museveni thought, he must be talking about me, right? And for that, imagine a supposed president of a whole country, you know, calls a senior officer, because I imagine the order does not go from him to the bandits that come to kidnap Kakwenza. It must go to a senior officer. And a senior officer in the military or police actually then has to pursue that order. So look how everybody along the process is being corrupted. You're a senior officer, you trained to be a professional soldier or police, you're being instructed to organize the arrest of somebody who wrote a book, a fictional account, you see? And you actually mobilize 12 to 15 people. And what are their instructions? Are you being sent to protect Uganda from some foreign enemy? No. You're being sent to the private residence of an unarmed citizen, a writer, to arrest him violently, to take him to be tortured. And what was some of the nature of the torture? He described how he is tied with his arms to a bar on the ceiling, with his feet barely touching the ground. And that is the position that he is forced to be in overnight. He describes being waterboarded, which of course is scandalous. It was a huge scandal here in the United States when it was revealed that the US was using that process, yet Uganda is using it not even against suspected terrorists, but against a civilian citizen who wrote a novel. And that is what he was subjected to. And then he was forced to kneel on rocky pavements. So even inside the military facility where he's being tortured, there is a section that is designed to intentionally have a rocky type ground to force people to kneel on. And then he's being interrogated. Is he being interrogated about, does he know anybody from any foreign elements coming into Uganda, trying to destabilize the country? Is he in touch with them? No. He's being asked, who are you describing in this book? You can imagine deploying state resources, taxpayer resources, to kidnap an innocent unarmed civilian and to force him to endure this kind of torture. He is forced to sleep in a toilet right next to the toilet seats of a stinking toilet. He's commanded to eat feces. And of course, he refused and he said, do what you will with me, I'm not going to eat feces. And he's then taken to a prison where some individuals are then told to threaten to rape him. And this is all because he wrote a book. And that is the second account, because after he was released, he was arrested again for writing the second book, which described how he was arrested when he wrote the first book, The Greedy Barbarian. So I really urge people to read his book. Those of us who have some resources, let's order his book. Go to Amazon, order his book, because that is your way of showing him support. And that is your way to help him have a little income as well. Because he had a farm, and that was how he was making a living. But it was when he was prevented from traveling to his farm, when he was confined, the crops were destroyed. He could not attend to his crops. He could not attend to his livestock. So he lost that fourth form of income as well. And yet, at the end of the day, anybody who sees Kakwenza would be amazed. He does not seem to be a bitter or destroyed individual. In fact, Kakwenza is the best demonstration of biting the bullet and say, yes, we are still suffering. But if you lose your sanity, you will not be able to contribute to the struggle to get rid of dictatorship in Uganda. So I respect Kakwenza amazingly, and I admire him. I'm impressed by his courage and determination, and I wish him the best in the struggle. And of course, as for him and everybody else involved in the struggle on the ground in Uganda, we also are concerned about their safety. And I agree with what Michael said earlier. They should protest, yes, but in as creative ways as possible so that the dictator does not, of course, eliminate them physically. So that is always a concern as well.
Thank you very much, Professor Milton Alimari. It's always a pleasure working with you. Yes, we do have a documentary. The name of the documentary is United Front. Uganda's struggle for democracy. And what's amazing about this documentary is it's inclusive of activists from ANT, DP, FDC, and obviously the National Unity Platform, among many other parties. We both work with all Ugandans, irrespective of tribe and political affiliation, because that is what it's going to take to change Uganda for the better. And since this was session for Kakwenza, I'd like to say thank you to Milton Alimadi.
Now, could I add something very quickly? Yes. Okay, I want to, because I was looking to Michael speak, an idea came to my mind. I think we need more of our American sisters and brothers who are supporting us in the struggle to be featured in short videos.
Yes.
You know, because Americans recognize fellow Americans, so they will pay attention and say, why is this American talking about something going on in Uganda? So we have to get people like Michael, more sisters and brothers, you know, like Michael, and feature them in short videos, having them summarize the fact, I don't want my tax dollars to be supporting this type of genocidal regime in Uganda. And then another Ugandan would also be co-featured on that short video. Yes. And, you know, so the American would introduce why it shouldn't be with my tax dollars, and then pass it off to Ugandan, who then would describe, let me tell you what's happening in my country with your tax dollars. I think that's something we should think of doing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I'm pretty sure David is going to follow that up. And with that said, let's go on ahead and invite Dr. Lina Zedrega to the platform to give a few words of inspiration. Thank you very much, Professor Milton Alimadi, and thank you, David and Tim.
Yeah, so now we have to unmute account M11.
Account M11, you're unmuted. Do you hear us? Hello, Dr. Lina, do you hear us? We can't hear you. I think we're having trouble getting through to Dr. Lina. Oh, hold on.
She's not.
Galaxy M11. Is it Galaxy M11? Hold on. Here we go.
Oh, okay.
We can broadly make you out, but maybe if you could get a bit closer to the microphone, we might be able to hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Hello. Hello?
Yes, perfect. There, we can hear you now.
Okay, good evening, comrades. Good morning. I want to thank each one of you present and virtual. I have followed this very insightful and very grounded online demonstration. Nico and team, thank you so much. On behalf of the people of Northern Uganda, the people of Uganda, the peace-loving comrades, we want to say thank you. Aluta continua. I might take three very quick things. We must continue to preach. We must continue to defy. We must leave the issue where we have only been preaching to ourselves. Unity for a purpose. 1. 2, we must connect the dots. What is happening in diaspora in one country or the other, or the demonstrations with one or institution, or at one Ugandan embassy or ICC, should be reflected even up to Arua, up to Karamoja. That is my take, connecting this. Finally, It should not be an event. I want to thank Honorable Silvana because we had a conversation online and she committed to continue to stand with us in solidarity. So I want to thank you all. We have a lot of work to do. We need to remain resilient. We are removing a dictator who will do anything to any of us. I was in Europe, but I have come back to Uganda as a commitment. I made that commitment last year, 8th of April, and I'm staying true to it. So thank you so much. May our efforts deliver a new Uganda. May our efforts be blessed by those still in prison, those who have died, who have been murdered, and may we continue to advocate and demonstrate that enough is enough. Our lives matter. We want to deliver a new Uganda. And I totally agree with Otim Michael. His Excellency Bobby Wine is the de facto and de jure president. We push for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lina, for those last words. Yes, Patricia, you're on mute. Is that your intention?
I could not unmute myself. I apologize. Yes, that was absolutely amazing. Dr. Lina always finds a way to summarize things in a very effective manner. So yes, may our efforts deliver a new Uganda. Thank you very much, Dr. Lina Zedriga, for all your efforts. And Dr. Nico, thank you. David, thanks a lot. And Susan, I see you there. Thank you very much for everything you're doing for Uganda. And then Milton Alimadi and all these amazing people that have joined us here today. And I want to say this is literally one of the most amazing platforms that I have moderated on. It's always a pleasure being here, always a pleasure listening to the different submissions that Ugandans worldwide have as to what we need to do to change what's happening in Uganda today. So please continue being inclusive. Let's emulate the actions of Uganda is Bleeding and the activists that are making this happen. And with that said, thank you very much. I'll hand it over to you, Professor Nico, or Dr. Nico.
Yes, actually, the professor is just the honorary title and the doctor is the real title.
Perfect, perfect.
Yes, so, David, are you still on, or did you go back to the demonstration?
I am now on the street. I just want to demonstrate to everyone who's watching that this is one of the protests that you can attend wherever you are. I have been moving from place to place as we attended the G7 summit, so it might get a bit loud. I've been kicked out from different spaces, but that hasn't stopped us from hosting the biggest yet online protest. I just want to thank everyone who has taken the time to join us. We've been here since 2 o'clock. All comrades from right across the world who've taken time to come and join us and stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Uganda. Like Dr. Lina said, we should not give up and we should look at every means possible to remind the world that His Excellency Bobby Wine is the legitimate president of Uganda and the current occupier of that seat is an illegitimate leader. Thank you so much to all the moderators and all the speakers who took time to join us. I will very shortly give everyone the opportunity to unmute themselves and we can sing the anthem and the Ngule. But before then, I'd like to thank the team, everyone who's got involved in speaking. Those of you who haven't been able to speak today, please join us every Saturday from 2 p.m. UK time, which is 4 p.m. Uganda time. We're here doing exactly the same thing, where everyone gets a chance to share what's on their mind. So don't hesitate, don't worry if you haven't had a chance to speak today. I'd like to thank Dorcas, to thank Alice, and to thank everyone who has been involved in whatever shape and form, and of course to you, Dr. Nico, for pulling out all the stops to get us a very, very high caliber of speakers this afternoon, evening, morning. I'll hand over to you, Nico, for your final words before we give everyone the chance to say, sing the anthem, and we close it officially. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, David. Yeah, so coming back to the reason that we are having this demonstration, the G7 are joining in Cornwall, and they are the major funders of the corrupt Museveni regime. And I think that we had many stories. I think, for example, Milton in his interviews has explained very well how this works. I think it's very nice that Silvana has explained how we can improve our activism and how she is going to help from one of the European countries. And it was all these contributions from the guests were just very nice. And then obviously the individual editions, then the Twitter bombing. I think we're getting better and better in using social media. We're going to have more and more successes on social media. And I wouldn't be surprised that one of these days, our efforts are also going to have effect on the IMF level, even though we know it's a corrupt, basically a corrupt organization with an unclear regulatory framework. What do? It looks like they preserve the interests of the main shareholders. So let's pushing them further. We are on the right way. Everybody is telling us that we're on the right way. Robert Amsterdam has very nicely encouraged us to keep demonstrating at important venues. So we from the Netherlands, we're definitely are going to continue our demonstrations, and we're definitely going to the ICC in The Hague. For us, that has an important symbolic value, and there are two people that we want to deliver there, Museveni and his son, Muhoozi. Back to you, David.
Seriously.
Thank you so much, Comrade Nico. Thank you to you and all friends of Uganda who spend the time sharing the message and helping us raise our voices. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of our protest. This was a 4-hour protest. Normally we hold these for 2 hours. This is an important one because we took our message to Cornwall, which is where I am right now, and the G7 leaders are meeting behind me. We have been in front of the press and we've been raising the message. Anyone can do this. You can raise your message wherever you are. You do not have to be hundreds. We've shown you that 2 people can hold a protest. Get involved, get active, and join us every Saturday wherever you are and get the message out. You can make a difference, and we have not given up hope, and we will continue until the objective is achieved. Ladies and gentlemen, I've said this before, this is the final goodbye, but I will now give you the opportunity to all unmute yourselves. As we do, we haven't got music because we're on the move, we haven't got the anthem, but this gives you a chance to exercise your vocals. You now have the chance to unmute yourselves. Please all, can you stand up and get ready to sing one stanza of the Uganda national anthem in 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, Uganda, may God uphold thee. Lay a future in thy hand. United faithful liberty together will always stand. Power! For power! For power!
for power.
Power.
NUP.
NUP.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
NUP.
Okay, who wants to lead us on the Ngole? Who wants to lead us on Ngole? Please start. Thank you all. You all have lovely voices. Until we meet next Saturday, please join us right here, same place, same time. Look after yourselves. Yes, now. Well, thank you so much to all of you.
Appreciate it.